Hey everybody, Cracklin' Rosie here. Happy Saturday. Please give me a quick thumbs up if you can hear me. What's up, Salty? What's up, Book? What's up, Stu? Herbal Tea? Well, it's cold where I am, and I thought a live might be fun. We're going to be a little bit back and forth. Of course, we'll be working from the timeline, but some things have come up in the group wall and chat, and I just thought it might be fun to go through them on a live. Hey, Nutty. All right, we're going to jump right into it. So we will begin. Let me just get this on my screen. And we'll begin with a little housekeeping. There we go. All right. Nothing too important, but we do have a wall that I like to share pictures, thoughts. I try to stir up discussion, sometimes successfully, sometimes unsuccessfully. And 2 days ago, we put up a post with regards to John Paul Ranieri, knowing Maury Terry in high school. And for those that were in the conversation, YouTube took my comments down. They've been giving me warnings for all kinds of things, but they're back up. So if you were in that discussion, I had someone ask me, "Hey, where'd my thing go?" I had some comments I wanted to make. Well, they're back up, so that's that. And I don't know who. Let me get that chat back on. There we go. I don't know who was able to see it, but if you didn't, when you have time, go ahead and check out our last video on the Greenwich Village cult, the Middle of Silence Gallery. It's pretty interesting. Do check that out. That was something they struck my thumbnail, but they only took the video down for a couple of minutes. Just scanning through my wall here. So yeah, if you're a member of the channel, please check the wall. The other thing that I wanted to announce, if you don't already know and you're not subscribed to my Facebook page, yeah, I'm a dinosaur, Facebook. I'm on Instagram, but I never post anything on that. But on the Facebook page, I like to share archives. And I know a lot of you have access to the archives and a lot of you don't. But I am going to be cleaning out my phone. So what the hell does that mean? That means I'm going to be posting a lot of archives on the Cracklin' Rosie Facebook page. So if you like to read the archives like I do, yeah, you might want to go over there, and this way you could download some of the archives. All right. As far as any other cleanup goes, I announced the other day we were going to talk a little bit about Klausner. We're going to talk a little bit about John Paul, though we will not be going into a deep dive with it. I just stumbled across a letter that I had, which was a response from David Berkowitz to John Paul Ranieri. So some of you may have seen, I don't know, maybe about a month ago or so, there was a letter filtering around that appeared on Medium, Criminal Justice Chris. Evidently, David Berkowitz forwarded it to her, and it was a letter written by John Paul to David. So I'm not going to be covering that. Let's go. But I did find a response from David back to John Paul, though it was a year after. So let me share a different screen with you. We'll start with that, but before we do that, I also did a video. Let's just jump back here for a moment. This one. I was demonically possessed, David Berkowitz. I don't know if you had a chance. It's like a minute. It's one of my shorties. I don't know if you had a chance to check that out, but I think that's where we're going to start. So let me share this other tab with you. You get it a little bit bigger. And I just found it interesting. You know that I've talked about the many stories of David Berkowitz. So I found this statement in my files, in my archives. And I just, I know a lot of people don't like reading. And I love to read, but a lot of people don't. So sometimes I make these videos of me just reading it out for you. So there it is. And I'm going to read it to you again. I am absolutely convinced, without a shadow of a doubt, that I was demonically possessed and controlled. I allowed these spirits, through my own ignorance, to control me. The murder and mayhem was a result of that. If I had not been a serial killer, I probably would have ended up married with a wife and kids in the suburbs, making a living, working in the post office. So my comment on this, on that video, there was a little bit of discussion on it, is you should take note. Many people, I've brought it up, and now I'm hearing other people chit chat on it. It's the many stories of Berkowitz, always changing his story. Well, I just realized that every time something is going out in the public is when a story change happens. So in this instance, this was in the archives at the same time that Spike Lee's Summer of Sam movie was coming out, which Berkowitz was not happy about. Heisman bells ring very loud. I'm going to bring that up. Nutty. But when it comes to what's going on the outside of the prison walls, that drives the story that Berkowitz is telling. So poof, the demons are back, right? Why is that important? Well, regardless of what you think of this case, I think that his stories are important. And I'm going to get out of this and we're going to go into, I don't feel like turning it off and on. So excuse me while I scroll in my vault, my Son of Sam vault. So yeah, we're going to talk about Klausner a little bit today. And why it's important, and please forgive me, I'm going to be jumping around a little bit, is most of you that know this case well know that Berkowitz had a fit and was never in support of the Klausner book. Well, guess what? This was the same time that Berkowitz renounced the demons when the Klausner book was coming out, and he said he wanted to sabotage that project. So when the book was coming out, when it was being worked on, all the deals were going on, he felt very betrayed. He felt betrayed by his lawyers because they were working with Klausner. He felt betrayed by his conservator, Doris Johnson, who was also working with Klausner. He felt betrayed by everyone. His bio mom was working with him a little bit, but we're going to jump back into that more. I just figured I'd bring that up in terms of the many stories. So let's jump around and let's go back. Let's see. I think, I need to get better at this. So I'm going to shut it and bring myself, hey, there I am. I'm going to bring myself back to the letter from Berkowitz to Brother John. Oh, cool. I can actually see it. So now let's share this with you. Boom. You get the chat back on. And I'm a one-man show here, so I'm just like jumping from screen to screen. Please chat. Chat in the chat. Okay. So the letter that was sent from John Paul Ranieri to David Berkowitz was dated November of 1993. In this letter that I found, let me see if I can make this a little bigger for y'all. Let me do it here. Well, I'm going to read it to you. So there we go. I think it bumped me off the screen, but you don't need to see my bubble. All right. From David Berkowitz, Fallsburg. So this was when he was in Sullivan. Again, November 7th, 1994. Dear Brother John, greetings in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I hope that you are doing well and prospering in the Lord. It has been a long time since you've heard from me. I haven't forgotten you, and I have been continuing to lift you and your family up to the Lord in prayer. If you want to, please drop me a line. Let me know how things are going. I am still busy with the ministry work here in the prison. I am thankful for God's daily strength and grace. He is completely faithful and sufficient. I am sorry that I was not able to work on the project that you suggested. Please give my apologies to that sister. I never got around to writing back to her. Day by day, the past is leaving my mind, and I am grateful for the Lord's continued healing. I do not want to remember the past. It's gone. I'm a new creature now. Presently, I am busy with some overseas work in getting toys, school supplies, Bibles, and gospel literature to a brother who's hoping to go to Zimbabwe, Africa in late December. My friend Pat and I are still sending Bibles and other things overseas. We are now working with an orphanage in Tanzania, East Africa, and the Lord has made a way for us to help them on a small scale. God bless you, and feel free to drop a line. Be encouraged. Our Lord is able to keep us. Yours in Christ, David Berkowitz. P.S. Did you ever hear anything from that brother in the Philippines? So I'm going to jump back on now. Now, those of you that are familiar with the letter that Brother John sent, and I'm going to tell you that, again, there was a year in between here, and it sounds like they might have had superficial correspondence in between. But Brother John was trying to get Berkowitz to reach out with him, as you can hear on this letter, trying to get him to work a quote-unquote project with him, talking about he needed Berkowitz's help with everything that he had been with, and he was talking about the cult, everything he'd been through, and he was talking about the cult. And here you can see, it almost sounds to me like Berkowitz is just, throwing it off to the Lord and almost blowing it all off. So it's, whatever that's worth. I just thought it'd be interesting to share that letter. Yeah, book. Seems like he was not too interested in Brother John. No, I agree with you. I think that he was busy in his philanthropy work and, working with the orphanages and the prison, the group support. So anyway, that's that. So we're going to move on, and I will share, let's see. Not going into a deep dive today, but since I already have it here, I might as well give you a little look-see at the John Paul Ranieri slide on the timeline. Okay, I'm getting better at this. There we go. The chat's off. I can see your chat. I'm just trying not to block it on screen. So And it's just some archives that I found talking about his history. And I know I've spoken on John Paul Ranieri a little bit, and I even made the comment that I don't know um, how confident I am, how reliable I think he is, and I'm just going to clarify that a little bit. I'm not saying that some of these horrible things that he said happened to him didn't happen. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just not seeing and there's that letter that I referred to, the one that he mailed, and he has beautiful penmanship. It's like an artist. But and then on the timeline, that's the letter that I just read to you. And again, I don't want to go too deep. I just figured I'd give you a look-see. And it's just the ultimate evil, a few places where he appears. Of course, we've got the link with Karen Wallstrom there. And then the transcript. So let me jump back a little bit on that. I'm not going to go into that from here. I'll come back to this screen. Yeah, it looks like it changed. Perfect. Oh, by the way, if you didn't see Martin Sheen and Ed Zigo, I just put a link there. Most of you have seen Out of the Darkness, but I put a link there because I see they're offering it free on YouTube now, and it's worth a look. It's worth a look, especially for the enthusiasts, because you'll kind of pick things out. But okay, jumping back. So what I shared, and I don't know why this isn't coming big, but basically it's a piece of the transcript. And I shared this a long time ago in one of the groups. I believe it was the official group. And someone asked why I thought it was relevant that perhaps, I mean, based on the transcript, it looks like Maury and John Paul Ranieri knew each other in high school, at least based on what John Paul Ranieri is saying here. He's reminding him of an episode where he was getting his ass kicked in high school. And he says, since you and I have known each other, you might remember. I mean, I don't know why I think it's so significant. I guess in my mind, I thought, and I can even, read you my comment here. I always believed that Maury met Ranieri later on in his investigation. The street preacher from Milwaukee, right? Right-click, open image in new page. Thank you, Nutty Techie. It's not very significant. Yeah, I mean, what do y'all think about that? Did anybody else think that? I knew he went to Sacred Heart, and it also brings me back to the John Carr thing. It didn't seem from the archives. Maury does say in his book later that, yeah, he was reminded that he was in his homeroom, and hey, listen, you might forget someone that was in your homeroom. But I just think that since John Carr was such a significant part of Maury's story, his memory would have been jogged a little sooner, because initially in the notes, in the records, it doesn't seem that he remembered John Carr specifically from high school at all. And now here, let me get this off the screen. You really don't need this now. But there I am. Okay. I find it interesting because they're all in school together and nobody remembers each other. And then later on in the investigation, all of a sudden, John Paul Ranieri becomes so significant. Why wasn't he more significant initially then? I don't know. I'm not an expert. I just found it interesting and I posted it. That's all. So someone had asked me, what's the significance of what I'm trying to say? I guess that's what it is. I get information and I like to share it. And more than anything, I like to hear others' thoughts. So, all right, moving on. Let's jump back to this screen. Good. Puts MT in the middle of it all since grade school. Very interesting. Yeah. I find it interesting. Anyway, maybe you do, maybe you don't. So we're going to get out of John Paul Ranieri. I read you the letter. Now let's go to Mr. Klausner. All right. In 1981, Klausner is the author, if you're not familiar with The Son of Sam, based on the authorized transcription of the tapes, official documents, and diaries of David Berkowitz. So here we go. Let me just read. Book always has some pretty good comments. Many came out of the woodwork after the release of The Ultimate Evil. Yep. Since they might have known each other, John reached out to Maury with his tale. Good point. Okay. So I'm going to preface good old Klausner. I just want to make note that I read everything. I read every book. I know some people are like, this is trash. That's trash. That doesn't count. He lied to Abrahamson. He lied to this one. He lied to that one. I like to read everything, right? And we use discernment then. And with our knowledge base of the case, we decide what makes sense. We compare it to what, police reports. We compare it to other items of research that we found, right? So, I kind of heard it like I was downing Klausner's book. So, grifters calling other people grifters. That's not the case. All I've ever said about Klausner's book is it's highly embellished. But some people think it's trash. Some people don't. I've never said anything like that. But anyhow. Sorry, not very versed on Brother John. We'll jump back. I'm kind of back and forth a little bit, Nutty. We'll jump back and I'll let you hear. Hopefully it'll work. I'll let you hear a little reel. I know that the reason I even posted it was because there have been a few videos that came on. If you look at group, there's been some links put up on videos about Brother John. So you may want to do that. Not now. You have to stay here on my live stream. Okay. So this is important to know about Klausner's book. Oh, another thing I want to bring up. I've heard people say that, he had a conversation with Berkowitz and he was in touch with Berkowitz. My notes show that he was not in touch with Berkowitz at all. Berkowitz wouldn't see him. And I could be wrong. But I'll share some of the things that I have found. And you be the judge. Okay, so the first thing, drawing on more than 300 tape recordings of conversations David Berkowitz had with police, lawyers, psychiatrists, and his handwritten notes and diaries, Klausner presents the full story of the notorious killer. So Klausner had access to a lot of stuff, okay? 300 tape recordings. To me, that sounds like he was given access, perhaps, to the tapes of the initial interrogation by police that people are always asking for. I don't have proof of that, but it just makes logical sense. I also know that he had access to the Phelps tapes. Okay, if you're not familiar with Phelps, I have a video on my channel. Okay, and he was the one who was trying to peddle. He got He got in to see David Berkowitz in Kings County. He was like, hey, I guess you need a lawyer. I'm a lawyer. He had conversations with David Berkowitz that he recorded, and then he tried peddling them. But go see that video. Okay, some more things that I'd like to go through. Okay, from the Vancouver Sun, and this is from March 6, 1981, and it's just an excerpt. And I'll tell you in a moment why I feel that this is interesting. After his capture, Berkowitz wrote about 40 pages of bizarre and completely psychotic diary, all reproduced in this book and fascinating to read. Okay? So going back a while now, I did a video on the diary of attacks, and that was on the front page of the paper. That's different. I think as a community, or whatever you want to call us, we came to the consensus that the diary of attacks were the apartment letters. The ones that resurfaced on real-time true crime, those are the ones, the Neo letters, the ones that are Neos. I think that those were the diaries that were initially reported. Those were found in the apartment. And Klausner very well could have had access to those, because he does make reference. Some of the things that he talks about in his book kind of sound creepy, like those letters. But the actual 40 pages of bizarre and completely psychotic diary, he's talking about Berkowitz's writings in Kings County. And I know that I've shared some of this with you, but again, we're talking going back 3 years, 3.5 years, 2.5 years. I don't remember what I've shared with you and what I haven't. So, boop, timeline click. Let's share this tab instead. And we're going to take a quick look at what I'm talking about. Kings County Hospital. For those of you not familiar, this is also the same hospital that Stacy Moskowitz was shipped over to, and Robert Violante. Diaries, notes, and letters written by David Berkowitz after his capture. We all know the famous Mittiger, Sam Sleeps. Again, this is all on the Cracklin' Rosie, Son of Sam timeline. These are letters written after his incarceration while he was in Kings County. And I'll share just a little bit with you. Let me give you a little scan first, because there's a whole mess. There's a whole mess of a diary he was keeping. And the titles on top, just so you know, after I went through every one of these, those are just captions for myself of the highlights of what was going on in Berkowitz's brain. So they're just captions, basically, for me to make it easy. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read this one that I feel, they're all interesting, but I'm going to read you this one that runs into I Saw Monsters. So this is dated November 8th, 1977. I'll just read it from here. So, haunted by demons since birth. I know I'm on this demon kick. Does anybody have any, share it in chat if you have anything that you want to say about the demons. I know most people are like, that was bullshit, whatever. I think he was in an oppressive state, but that's just my opinion. All right. Sorry. Back to the note. Back to the diary. Haunted by demons since birth. People feel a certain eeriness about me, something cold, inhuman, monstrous. This is the power and personality of the demons. This is the spell used by, quote unquote, them to turn people away from me and to create a situation of isolation, loneliness, and personal frustration as part of their master plan. There is no doubt in my mind that a demon has been living in me since birth. All my life, I've been wild, violent, temporal, mean, cruel, sadistic, acting with irrational anger and destructive. When I was a child, I often had very real and quite severe nightmares. In fact, they were so bad, I often had to sleep with a light on or with my father in the room, or I had to sleep with my parents. He wrote steep. I saw monsters often and I heard them, which often caused me to go screaming hysterically into my parents' room. I would say that they, monsters, and he crossed it out, had the dreams were very severe. Now I know that they were real, just like now. I've been tormented all my life by them, never having peace or quiet. In fact, last week I went berserk because they slapped me in the head and made terrible noises. Unbelievable. All right, I'm going to take a little water break here. I get dried up reading. Faustian deals aren't just for musicians. Hey, Sippos. All right. So let's go back. We're back on the main Klausner link. And that was the 40 somewhat pages of the bizarre and psychotic diary. So I think there's so much detail to this case that sometimes we just get it all mixed up. So we have the diary of attacks, which I believe, and I think most people believe those are the apartment letters. And then we have the Kings County diaries. Okay. This I found really interesting, and it'll give you a little bit of information. Daily News, January 30th, 1979. OK's big money for Sam book delays rule on survivors. A Brooklyn Supreme Court justice gave the go-ahead yesterday to a multi-million-dollar book on the life of David Berkowitz, the son of Sam Killer. But he will decide later whether the profits go to the Berkowitz's estate or to the survivors of the 6 persons murdered by the .44 caliber killer. Justice Carmine Ventieri said that for the time being, Berkowitz's estate would split 3 ways. $250,000 advance on the book from McGraw-Hill. So author Lawrence Klausner, that's for this book that we're talking about, would receive, and this is advance, $150,000 of that money, of the $250,000. His agent, $25,000. Note, his agent is his wife. And the conservator of the estate, $75,000. So we talked a little bit about her before. Hey, forensics. All right. So this money was going to the estate, okay? And I've done some of the follow the money shorts and whatnot. So now we have $75,000 going into Berkowitz's, into the conservator account. Keep in mind, and this is just, listen, people work and they ought to be paid to get work, okay? Remember what I said before. The Berkowitz felt very betrayed because the lawyers were working with Klausner. Doris Johnson was working with Klausner. So just keep in mind that as conservator, her fee was like a 7% of the estate. Okay? The lawyers were like, money, we can get paid, right? And again, Klausner from that advance got 150,000 and his agent slash wife got 25,000. So we're talking about a lot of money for that time. Yeah, a lot of money. But let me continue and then I'll address the chat because I see some good stuff going by. McGraw-Hill has estimated that the book's hardcover sale would amount to about 1 million and that another 10 million would be made from the sale of the paperback books and from a movie. So here it says 10 million. I saw in some other stuff that they initially were estimating, or maybe after the fact they were estimating 20 million, but we know that fell through. But I'll finish here. Following hardcover publication, 37% of the royalties would go to Berkowitz's estate, 5% to Berkowitz's defense attorneys, and the balance to the author Klausner. So this is what was going on right now. At this point, the victims are like, what the fuck? They're like, what's going on? So there was a whole fight, which eventually we'll see, got straightened out that the victims compensation fund fought that the money that they be able to attach themselves to the money in the conservatorship. They can't attach themselves obviously to Klausner or whatever the lawyer fees were, that sort of thing, but they wanted on that conservatorship because hey, who shouldn't get the money? More so, who's more deserving to get Berkowitz's share? Remember, y'all have heard of the Son of Sam law, and all this stuff was happening at that time. The state's crime victims compensation law, however, provides that all money earned from the sale of life stories of murderers, such as Berkowitz, first go to the fund that is run by the state board. Now, remember, Justice Ventieri approved the go-ahead on this project, but at this point, he didn't approve anything going directly to the victims' comp fund, and we'll get back to that. And just a quickie here, but they can petition the board. So the victims' families and survivors can then petition the board for monetary awards. Several millions of dollars in damages already are being sought by the families of Berkowitz's victims. So the big ones that we know right off the bat, Spencer Later was representing Nessa Moskowitz initially against the city of Yonkers for 20 million. That fell through, so they went after the estate. We know that Robert Violante went after the estate as well with attorney Lipsig. And then later Sal Lupo jumped on board. But ultimately, most of the victims, from what I see in my notes, were involved and were calculated into the disbursement. Although from my notes, it looks like they didn't get anything for like 10 years, which is horrific. Okay. Ventieri said that he would rule in a few weeks whether the profits from the Berkowitz book movie deal will remain with the conservator of his estate or automatically go to the compensation board. Well, I could tell you, spoiler alert, they did not go directly to the compensation board. They had to petition for it. So I'm just going to take a little breath here. And for those just chiming in, we are looking at the Lawrence Klausner link on the CRTC SOS timeline. So I'm going to just hit some of these. Okay. P. Thomas, they must have thought it was going to be a big seller. They did. You heard it in that article. They were looking at, from my notes that I have, like a $20 million deal on a movie. And I'm not talking about Summer of Sam. We're talking about initially. That fell through, right? The book didn't do as well as they thought it was going to do, although people are still reading it today. I don't know what that means, but all right, let's see. I always love Ginger. Oh, wait, let's go back to top one. Oh, yeah, I said hello before, but hey, Forensic. I don't know what time it is by you, but glad to see you in a live stream. Very cool. All right, Ginger. Like most kids do have nightmares, yes, and want to sleep in parents' beds. Asking to keep the light on is also normal. Yeah. Christians will have you believe that means demons are possessing. No, that's not what I'm saying, Ginger. Yeah, definitely a nice advance. Let's see. Nutty Christians like D Channel were also starting to talk in David's ear about demon possession and exorcisms and such. Yeah, well, D Channel got in touch with David Berkowitz early on because David had made some quote like his life he wasn't even worth living, and he was saying really derogatory things about himself, and she was an expert in demonology. She was a nut. I'm sorry, she's a nut. But I do have some stuff on D Channel on some old videos. After his arrest, I didn't hear much about SOS until I got a certain book in '87. Yep. No, Steve. Did the families get anything from Summer of Sam? Not according to my records. Absolutely not. They hated that movie. Lawrence Klausner's Nook can be found here. She was a handler. I'm assuming you're talking about D Channel. She was a nut. All right. So back to the timeline. Thank you guys. I appreciate the chat. Keep it going. Keep it going. And when I dry out, I'll stop for water and check it. But please talk amongst yourselves. Yeah. We don't want to go through anything in his book right now. I do have the book linked here, but that's for my use. I don't give it, whatever. Okay, so let's come back to here. Oh no, let's go here. So, in addition to the advance and whatnot on the book, Lawrence Klausner was signed for a series of articles. So this was all leading up to the promotion of his book. And this, even though you'll see on screen, it says like San Francisco and blah, blah, blah. But these were all initially, I believe, through the Daily News. Let me not talk out of school. I believe so. Yeah. Yeah. This was a special contract that he had with the Daily News to do a series of articles. And as newspapers do, they get it through the AP or and then they report on it after the fact, but they were pretty out there with these. So I'm just going to give you headlines. I don't think we're going to sit here and read archives. Again, if you're late to the party and you're not part of my Facebook group, I am cleaning out my phone. What does that mean for you? I have so many downloaded archives and photos and all kinds of stuff that I just want to get it off. I have all of it on, on a hard drive that I work off of, but I also want to just get them off my phone and share them. Hey, if you're a nerd like me and you like to go through the archives and you don't, have a subscription to the archives, I like to share, and everything, everything's sourced. So if you're interested in that, like my page. And not only that, and I don't ask anybody for anything, but if you are going to use the archives, give the posts a like. You know what I'm saying? And while you're all at it, give the video a like if you're enjoying my train wreck here. All right, let's just go through headlines. And remember, this is Klausner with a series of articles to promote the book. A sick, pathetic punk was elevated to mythic stature. I am son of Sam, David Berkowitz, a man possessed. Okay, here he's talking about Foreman. Son of Sam, his first victim. Son of Sam gets his gun and kills. Demons drove him to kill. Sam, Carr, and Harvey, a clue goes unused. The killing moves to Brooklyn. Son of Sam's fatal mistake. Son of Sam tripped up by parking ticket. So this is the series that Klausner put out there. They're all written by him, all promoting his book. And again, if you missed the party in the beginning, I kind of go through where what he had available to him from this book, for this book rather. Okay, let's go back. Boop, 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 boop. Here. And this is the whole article. This is David Berkowitz. If you remember that press conference at Attica, again, he says it himself. He wanted to sabotage this book. And at this point, this is where he renounces the demon story. Oh, I'm sorry. Oopsie. There you go. I'm picking it up quick when I'm not on. Thanks, Patrick. Son of Sam, no demons. I just had to convince myself. Son of Sam recants demon tale and wants to block the book deal. This is the letter, and you could find this on the People versus David Berkowitz site that David Berkowitz wrote directly to McGraw-Hill. I mean, he was protesting this book. He did not want it to go to come out. Son of Sam recants the tale of the demons. I mean, this is how big this story was. Who calls a press conference in Attica prison? And I think that he only invited the Times and the AP. He didn't invite the Post. But yeah. And some of these, if you have interest, drop it in comments after the video. Maybe these will be some of the first that I upload on the page for you. This was the Newsday cover. All right, we're going to move on. Let's go back to the main. Is this the main Klausner? No. This is. Okay. Let's share this. And please give me a moment while I close up some of these screens because I have so many open, and I don't think that helps with the stream. I'm going to leave the Kings County packet up just in case we need to come back to one of the demon stories. All right, we're back on Klausner. So, what did I find interesting on this? When I clip out excerpts, it's just because I find something interesting. And this is New York Times. Berkowitz goes to Attica Center in tight security. Mr. Berkowitz was transferred on the same day that this is why I found it important. A state Supreme Court justice in Brooklyn named Doris Johnson the conservator of his estate, custody of court-sealed tape recording his conversations with lawyer Phillips Peltz shortly after Mr. Berkowitz was arrested. So the tapes were turned over to Doris Johnson, and she in turn made the Phelps tapes available to Klausner. So let's see. Okay, so this is just, I'm not going to read this. This is the letter, again, that you saw in the newspaper. This is on the timeline in the Berkowitz letters to Abrahamson. It's that same letter that he wrote to McGraw-Hill protesting the book. Okay, this I just want you to kind of breathe in on this for a moment. Klausner book acknowledgments. During the past 2.5 years, many people have contributed their time and knowledge to this book. Without their assistance and dedication, the book and the truth it contains could not have been written. Foremost among them, Nadine Novice gave of herself to a degree I can never repay, and Myron Arlen, MD, who saved my life. Also, I'd like to thank Ira Joltak, who was instrumental in launching this project. So that is one of Berkowitz's lawyers at the time. He was pissed. Berkowitz was pissed with his lawyers. They jumped on the money train. The following members of the New York City Police Department were especially helpful. Chief of Detective James Sullivan, former Chief of Detective John Keenan, former Deputy Commissioner for Public Information Ellen Fleischer, Inspector Joseph Borelli, Captain Kenneth Bamrick, Commanding Officer, Police Pension Section, Detective Sergeant Joseph Coffey, Detective Sergeant James Shea, Detectives John Filatico, James Gallagher, Marlon Hopkins, James Justice, Ronald Marcenison, Richard Paul, Joseph Strano, police officers Louis Marchini and Michael Sparrows. Wasn't Sparrows, I have to go back in my notes, was he one of the police that they suspected? All right, I'm going to take a breath here because I see some stuff going through. Let's see. So he was possessed, just said he wasn't to mess the book, or is this some guerrilla marketing to get the book some more free butter? Okay, so I can't tell you that he was possessed, Patrick, but initially he said he was, and then he wasn't, and then he was again, and then he wasn't, and then Son of Sam was coming out, and then he was the Summer of Sam, and then he was again, and then he spoke to Maurice Dubois, and he was again. So the demons go away, and they come back, and they go away and come back, and they go away and come back. Was he possessed? I can't say that he was. Do I think that that some dark shit was connected to him? Hell yeah. Definitely dark energy. Okay, I'm going to hit some more of these. Let's see. Book. You can see in the Abrahamson letters how enraged Berkowitz is with Klausner. Yeah, yes. And you'll see as I move on, I have something else to share with you that shows that he didn't cooperate with Klausner on this book like others have said. I believe he thought that at some point that he was possessed, but not really possessed. I think he had demons. Let's say that. I don't think he was ever in a situation where he felt completely taken over. It's obvious to me that David was play acting with Abrahamson, leaning into the Freudian garbage. Well, let's look. I think he mirrors whoever he's dealing with. Okay, so whatever he said to Abrahamson during his evaluations, they were looking for a specified result. Let's put it that way. And David just kept going with his story. And there was at one point where the judges just didn't want to hear it anymore. They're like, look, we're not going to listen to this demonic shit anymore. You're fit to stand trial. So I don't think, did I switch it? After the fact, it was David Berkowitz who reached out to Abrahamson. Remember, in the initial stages, from 77 to the early 80s and then into the later 80s, David Berkowitz wanted somebody to tell him his story. Now, how honest he wanted the story to be, I don't know. I don't know, but he was the one who was seeking out Abrahamson. Remember, the demon story comes out. Who is he seeking out? He's seeking out Malachi Martin. And even though Malachi Martin did visit with him and gave him some spiritual guidance and support, he never agreed. He wasn't interested in writing Berkowitz's story. And let's jump back to the video that I just put out with the, for God's sake, you've got a Manhattan cult trying to exorcise him through mail. I mean, there was something going on. Okay. So, yeah, to some degree, anyway, to go back to that, to some degree, I believe that David Berkowitz mirrors whoever he's feeling close with. And that's what he goes with. That's my personal opinion. That's my opinion. Uh, he didn't hate his mother or women. Oh, I agree to some extent to that. I don't think he hated women. I think that I do think that he resented. I'm not going to say he hated his mother. And when I say mother, I'm talking about his stepmother and his bio mother. I think he admits himself that he treated his adoptive mother, Pearl, poorly a lot, but there's so many places where he shows genuine love for her. I don't think he had genuine love for his stepmother, although he did, I'll have to share it, he did write something nice about her, but only because he felt that she made his father happy. But picture him coming home from the service to the apartment that he should have lived. His mother wanted them to move to so bad, and he should have been there with Pearl, and now you've got a new stepmama. So I don't buy that. And then if you're talking about Betty Broder, I think he went through waves with her. I think he went through waves with her. I think that initially he was, you know, elated because he wanted to learn about himself and meet his birth mother. And then I think she did some things that he found distasteful. And I think he had waves with her. Did he hate her? I can't say that. I don't know. But he definitely went through waves with her. I found it very unusual. If you read through the article, the Good Housekeeping, and if you read through his letters, he was unhappy with her too, because she was on the Klausner train and she was on the newspaper train and she was into it too. And he was not happy about that. And then she gets married to some man that she barely knew. And this is before David's arrest, doesn't invite him to the wedding. He was, very put off by that. He speaks to his half sister, Rosalind, and she's like, "Oh, mom got married." And it's like, "What? To who?" And like he wasn't even a thought. Like he didn't even get invited. This was before. I mean, it was during the crimes, but she didn't know he was committing the crimes. And it was still, I'm assuming, he was still on a regular visitation schedule with Rosalind, or maybe not, because he dropped her, or was avoiding her for quite a bit of months before he really got into his hunting. Okay, let's just do a few more of these. Do you think DB believes he was possessed? No, I think we answered that already. I don't think he believed it, but I think that he went through times in his life where he felt darkness and where he might have felt demons, or he might have felt like he was being pulled toward the darkness. So it's all on, yeah, here, thank you. Everyone has demons. Don't say you don't, because we all do. And if you're atheist, you still have them. Yep. People get possessed for sure. I believe in it. I believe in it. I just don't believe he was ever possessed. I believe that he might have gone through an oppressive state where he was being influenced by darkness, but I don't think anything ever took over his body the way they portrayed in some of those movies with the bah, 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 bah. No, I don't think any of that. Yep, everyone has demons. Human condition and all. Yep. That's true. He's born to be handsome. After they call him the Tavistock Doc. Okay. So we're not going through that today, but let me tell you something, Nutty. I got something that you're really going to love. And it goes, I got it from the Columbia Archives, and it really goes into some of his history. Abrahamson. So, like, I didn't know that he was on a pen pal basis with Freud. So, it's pretty cool. I'll either just share it with you, or maybe I'll do a short. David is still a puppet master today. I tell you, and I've said this before, David is so much more intelligent than people give him credit for. Sorry. I think it was Gold that made the call. Yes, it was. Yes, the pedo. Here's something interesting that I posted on my wall a while back that I didn't realize. Yes, they called in Abrahamson because they're like, all right, we're getting nowhere with these other sympathetic psychiatrists. And they knew Abrahamson was going to give them what they wanted. But Abrahamson gave consults to the police early on. And I'm not 100. I'll confirm it. I think it's on my wall. But I want to say it was as early as Esau Sirianni. I'll have to dig that up and share. I'm not going to do it now because y'all know that I'm basically handicapped when it comes to jumping screens. Big book. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go away from the chat for a little bit now so that I could keep going on the acknowledgments. So my point, I don't need to read this verbatim, but Klausner was plugged in with the police. So he had access to police reports. Okay, so people could say that all of his stuff was nonsense. Well, he got it from somewhere. I am definitely of the opinion that there was a lot of embellishment going on in that book. I mean, the story, the colors of this and that, it's a little crazy. But if you think for a second that he didn't have access to a lot of the information, he did. Now, you can have the argument, well, Berkowitz lied to the police, and Berkowitz lied to the DAs, and Berkowitz lied to the psychiatrists, and Berkowitz lied to the lawyers. Well, he lied to everybody except Maury Terry? Come on, guys. We have to use discernment. We have to look at everything, right? And then we have to decide, because I think that there's truth and lies in all of it. That's my opinion. So I think that you miss out on a lot if you don't take everything into consideration. Even if you read a book, I'm a geek, so I can pick up a book, and if I find it somewhat interesting, especially if it's on a topic that I'm passionate about, and I'll stay up all night and read it. So what's it in a book? It's like people saying, I'm not going to listen to the Jack Jones tapes because he lied to Jack Jones. What? It doesn't matter if you think he lied or told the truth. Listen to them. Don't you want to know all of the information? I mean, to me, that makes no sense. You need to look and listen to everything. Okay, with that being said, back to Klausner. He was plugged in. He had a lot of stuff at his disposal. So while his book might have been highly embellished, he had a lot of information. He was going off of police reports. He had psychiatric reports. He had psychiatric tapes. He had the Phelps tapes from the lawyers. He was talking to Stern and Joltak. He was talking to the conservator. Okay, let's see who else he was talking to. A special thanks to the former mayor of the city of New York, Abraham Beam, for the time he gave me for his reading of the pulse of the city during the terrifying 14 months when David Berkowitz was killing at random. He's thanking the mayor. I would also like to thank the current mayor of the city of New York, Edward Koch. Oh my goodness. I was a little girl. I remember Beam and Koch, more Koch, because I was a baby during Son of Sam. I was only like 10, but I remember Koch. He was such a mess. And his staff or assistants. My thanks to former Chief William Poison of the Yonkers, am I saying that right? Poisson or Poison of the Yonkers Police Department, and to Detectives Thomas Chamberlain and Pete Intervallo. Also to former Chief of Detectives Frank Claycack of the Nassau County Police Department. Chief Carl Fulgenzi of the Westchester County Parkway Police and to the Westchester County Sheriff's Department, Sheriff Thomas Delaney, Chief Salvatore Delorio, and to Craig Glassman. I know Stu's in there. He thinks Glassman's shady. To Craig Glassman, to the New Rochelle Police Department, the New York State Police, the New Jersey State Police, the Connecticut State Police, the Florida State Police, the Houston, Texas Police Department, and to the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Police. So he was talking to people, okay? Was it he was doing his homework? Yeah, I mean, evidently someone was doing it. And this wasn't ghostwritten. Somebody said something about it being ghostwritten. This was not ghostwritten. I don't have any notes showing that. I would. Oh, wait. Where's the families? Did I skip over that? No. Oh, here we go. I would also like to acknowledge the assistance of the following agencies of the United States government: the Department of Defense, the Department of the Army, and the Treasury Department's Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So they got involved when they were doing the hunt for the bulldog, right? The .44. My thanks to the Office of the Governor of the State of New York and to the Office of the Governor of the State of New Jersey, to the librarians of the following institutions: the Library of Congress, the New York Public Library, the Central Library System of Nassau County, the Hewlett-Woodmere Public Library, and the Peninsula Public Library. He's thanking everybody. Anyway, my point here, I'm really looking for the families. Here we go. I wanted you to hear the police, yeah, and now let's hear the families. And I do think that he thanks Berkowitz's father, so he might have had a few combos with Nat. But I know he never, nowhere in the credits for this book does it say that he visited Berkowitz, that he spoke with Berkowitz, nothing. All you hear about is Berkowitz writing letters against this. Okay. A special thanks to members of the families who gave of their time and emotions: Maurice and Catherine DeMasi, Nander and Olga Freund, and their daughter Eva, Michael and Rose Lauria, Jerry and Nasa Moskowitz, Pasquale Violante, Yolanda Vascarician and her daughter Alice, and to Charles and Eleanor Lomino. And of course, to the surviving victims: Donna DeMasi, Carl Denaro, Judith Placido, Robert Violante, and Joanne Lomino. To Valerie Scarpa and Thomas Zano. To David's natural mother, Betty Falco, and his half-sister, Rosalind Rothenberg, and to his adoptive father, Nathan Berkowitz. So he did talk to his family. How much they gave, I don't know, because Nathan seemed, I don't know, he seemed to be against this, but, to some degree, how is he going to stay out of the shuffle? If people are calling him, he may have had a few courtesy conversations. Not really sure. To attorneys Leon Stern, Robert Penn, Fred Sheffield, and the offices of the Attorney General of the State of New York. A special thanks to the offices of the District Attorneys of Queens, Kings, and Bronx counties. A note of thanks to Warden Harold Smith of New York State's Attica Correctional Facility. My thanks also to Bruce Lee of McGraw-Hill for his patient guidance, and to Catherine Temerson for her most valuable work, along with that of Rosemary Carano, Christina Lindberg, David. So those are all blah, blah, blah. Those are from the McGraw-Hill. Okay, so that's a lot of acknowledgments. And I think they're important because it shows that he had contact with victims, families, right? Hell of a lot of contacts in law enforcement, the lawyers, the conservator, the psychiatrists. It just seems like he really was plugged in with a lot of different, a lot of important people. Okay, so with that, it's time for me to grab a sip of water. This is pretty interesting. This is something I found, and let me just take a look. Forensics of Evil. Lawrence Klausner lived close to one of the addresses of Catherine Ives, a one-time process church member. Face blue, wide eyes. He lives, actually, he doesn't live too far from me now. And I'm not that process member, by the way. He said he read Abrahamson's book before oh yeah, he did. He absolutely did. Before he talked to him so he could tell what he wanted to hear. Or he could mirror him, right? Tell him what he wanted to hear. What would be the benefit to telling him what he wanted to hear? He wanted a certain story told. Welcome, Omega. Uh-oh, Sparrows, yes, was the NYPD cop who had yellow VW with the license plate. Yeah, I said before, I'm like, wasn't that the one they were suspecting? Welcome. Elizabeth Platzman lived just north of Klausner in Roslyn, New York. I need to jump back into my Maury Terry stuff because I have backup on all this stuff. I started the Maury Terry presentations, and I've got all the presentations finished, but I was hoping to present it all in a very factual way with backup in a respectful way. And I don't know what happened. As soon as I started presenting stuff, everybody started coming back out of the woodwork, you know, kind of trashing the work. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to step back. I'm going to finish my work. But I have it. Don't think for a second that I'm off of the early investigation of Maury Terry. I have all the work. I just haven't presented it yet, but it will be up soon. Let's see. And I just mentioned that because Forensic of Evil mentioned, all right, DB was wishy-washy, but I believe he was possessed. Okay, so we have someone on the side of possession. I don't know. Again, my vote was that he went through a period of oppression where he was being influenced. I don't know that they ever, well, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert demonologist like D-Channel. All of us men have been idiots and awkward when it comes to women. No, Forensic, I don't believe that for a second. The murdering mind is Freudian, so David started lying about violence, being sexual, and hating his mother. Okay, so here, how about the craziness? And he doesn't talk about that kind of violence as far as sexual or the mother thing. But what about the crazy letters from his apartment? I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the point is. I mean, anybody could say whatever they want. David Berkowitz had mental illness. It was very high functioning. And again, I stand by, he was a lot smarter than people give him credit for. Yep, and Freud did the report. He was a prison doctor, I think. Yes. If you're talking about Abrahamson, he was. You're gonna love it. I'm gonna do a whole a shorty on Abrahamson with all his, even pre-TAVI, pre him being a TAVI doc. Maury had every police report. Well, he definitely had a lot. I know we don't have everyone. We've gotten a lot. Yeah. Koch was a hot mess. Sounds like they wanted to hammer in the official narrative. Well, what? Yeah, we'll talk, Nutty. Glassman, didn't he write the first book? I don't think I'll have to go through the books on the Show Me the Money. I don't know. One of the first books that came out was the Carposi book. He got an advance for his book before they even arrested David Berkowitz. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm going off memory, and trust me, I'm getting old and I'm getting dementia symptoms. I want to say it came out like 5 weeks after the arrest. That's right. Well, none of us have anyway, Ginger. Yet no one has heard any of those tapes Klausner had access to. Well, we know the Phelps tapes existed, right? Because either they existed or the courts lied about uh, you know getting getting on Phelps for basically stealing them and trying to peddle them and then making him return them and then giving them to the conservator. So they definitely existed. Okay. Um, and I believe Klausner had them. I really do. Look how everybody was helping him with this project. Everybody saw dollar signs. Um, the police, they had to have some kind of a recording his initial during the initial arrest. And I'm not talking about the DA questioning. There had to be something, right? There had to be something because in his wait, I'm just going to scan back for a quickie moment. And for the latecomers to the party, this is what he had on his book. Drawing on more than 300 tape recordings. Could that have been embellished as well? Maybe, but I mean, why lie? 300 tape recordings of conversations. You're talking about the police, the lawyers, the psychiatrists, notes, diaries. He puts the whole story out. Was it 300 tapes? I don't know. We should call Klausner. I can't pay his tab, though, or I'm not willing to. All right. It was stated that Glassman's book was ghostwritten. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What was it about Klausner that he was so plugged in with the police? I wonder how far Klausner went when it comes to talking to the Houston cops. Oh, new man positive energy. What a cool name. Berkowitz is most likely schizophrenic. You know, we were having this combo the other day, and he wasn't initially diagnosed as schizophrenic. He was diagnosed with a rare and extreme paranoia. But and the initial doctors at Kings County, Schwartz and Wiedebacher, said that he exhibited some signs or some symptoms of schizophrenia, but not during their cognitive therapy with him. So, take that for what you will. And I believe it was Abrahamson that said hysteria, which is basically a diagnosis that they don't even use anymore. So we don't know if Berkowitz is lying, but Berkowitz has clearly said, I know he was allegedly heavily medicated at Kings County, which makes sense. He was medicated at Marcy. And I believe when he was only in Clinton for a short period of time, then they rushed him to Marcy. And I put a post on that the other day. There was a note from one of his Christian friends where evidently he tried to hang himself. And then he was moved to Attica, and then later on in his incarceration, he was moved back to Clinton. But we went through that on another. I don't know if it was a stream or it might have been a stream where I went through every penitentiary where he was and for how long and so on and so forth. So I don't believe that he's schizophrenic because Berkowitz said that he's been off of medication. If you believe him, so people believe him sometimes when they want to, and then they don't believe him when, but if you believe him, he said that he hasn't been on medication for a long time, and schizophrenia doesn't just go away. It has to be managed. It doesn't cure itself. It has to be managed. Now, he had symptoms. If he was really having delusions at some point, then that would be considered similar to a schizophrenic symptom, but he would still be on meds today. And maybe he is, and he's fibbing. I don't know. But if he's not on meds, then, he'd be freaking out. And you see him, he's sharp in interviews. Okay, let's see. He was planning to plead insanity and wanted them to find those letters for that purpose. The Kings County letters or the apartment letters? Because I believe that he was journaling those letters. I don't think he was writing them just to plead insane. Maybe the Kings County ones, because they were crazy, and we might have to jump back to a couple of those for the artwork. Maybe the press was behind it to sell so much ink. Well, let's put it this way: they weren't behind the crimes. Let's not put them in the conspiracy, but they weren't hating the sales. Okay, they weren't hating the sales, right? Okay. I didn't know until 2015 that Maury Terry wrote not only Dark Side of 10th Street about the Lisa Steinberg case, but also Satan in America. Neither were ever published, but they show up on Amazon. That is correct. The Dark Side of 10th Street, I started looking into that, I don't know, like a year or two ago. And I think I was in the official page or the group, and I had asked anybody if they knew anything about it, but nobody responded. And then recently it was brought up again. So yeah, neither was published. I don't know if anybody's had seen other notes on it. New Man Positive. Yeah, I'd love to see them, forensics. Newman Positive Energy. I actually think Berkowitz may have killed other people in other states or even in other countries when he was in the military. I don't know. All I know is that I find it weird in one of his notes that he talks about the brunettes that Sam Carr killed in Jersey. That always bothered me. That always sat funny with me. All right, let's move on. I thought something just beeped and it looked like Book was going to jump on. Hey, sorry about that. I'm trying to figure things out here. If you want to try and jump back on, I'm going to be, let's see, I don't even know what time it is. 11 o'clock. Yeah, if you want to try jumping back on, I have one more thing that I want to run through, Book, and then if you have a question or something you want to share, you're welcome to jump back on. So let me. I'm sorry. I'm so like I don't stay focused, as you can see. There was this that I wanted to share, though. I don't know how big it is on here. And then this, I'll just go through this real quick. This was a book that he wrote more recently, Satan's Roost, and it's the Bin Laden legacy. And I didn't read it, so I don't have much to say about it. So I'm just going to go ahead and move on from that. It's just on one of his slides. So this, I'm going to need to make this bigger. Please give me a moment. I have another device right here. Live stream. Here we go. Klausner. And we are looking at what this is in 2006, a site, and I'm assuming that there were some guys that were enthusiasts of this case. The site was called Altered States. Maybe some of you that are have been with the case for a long time might remember it. I don't know. But evidently they were told that they needed to take stuff off their site because Klausner had the rights to it. This is back in 2006. I'm just going to read real fast to you. They somehow, Berkowitz found out about it because I believe that they might have written to him or somehow he got word of it. And what Berkowitz did was he wrote to the gentleman. I keep hearing a beep. Someone trying to get in. Book, I saw that you tried to get in before. I'm going to be running for another little bit. If you want to try again, please do. I'm not seeing where to. Yeah, it's not showing it on screen for me again. Okay. So this letter is written to Brian from Altered States, and it's dated August 1st, 2006. Dear Brian, I'm sending this letter to you along with the notarized paperwork that's attached. It's self-explanatory. Because of the prison's correspondence rules, hang on one second. We have a visitor. Hey, Book. I can't hear you. Are you muted? Let me see. Maybe I have you. Well, get your mic going. I can't hear you. So I'm going to just keep on with this. Because of the prison's correspondence rules, I am not allowed to send letters that have an incomplete name or address. Blah, 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 blah. This is just an opening letter. So this is from David. This is the important part. Altered States regarding David Berkowitz, my statement. Dear Altered Dimensions, I don't know why I'm saying Altered States, Altered Dimensions and Brian, I am responding to an item you have on your website with regards to me, David Berkowitz, and a man by the name of Lawrence Klausner, who many years ago wrote a book about me as a biography and the so-called Sum of Sam case. Please be advised, and for your information, I do not know Mr. Klausner. I have never met him or have I assisted him in any manner with regard to this book. I believe that to the best of my recollection, his book came out in 1980 and was published by the McGraw-Hill Book Company. As far as I know, it was not a successful venture, and it is long since out of print. A careful reading of it, however, would clearly show that Mr. Klausner never interviewed or communicated with me. In addition, there is no law prohibiting a person from writing about any individual who is in prison or about crimes. Apparently, the material that's on your website states that Lawrence Klausner and I have some kind of a deal or arrangement. This is not the case. I had nothing to do with the book. I recall speed reading through it when it first came out because obviously I was curious as to what it said. I did not find anything in it, however, that was of any interest to me. I discarded it. I discarded my copy, and this had to be at least 25 or more years ago. Wait a minute. Did I get the date wrong? No, yeah, that's right, 2006. Your internet page also says that attorneys for Mr. Klausner had contacted you recently and requested that you remove old drawings and letters that I wrote, which you had at once featured on your site. I did not see these, however, but I assume Mr. Klausner requested their removal because he had obtained these things through my former attorneys who had represented me after I was arrested, and they turned this material over to Mr. Klausner, who used them in his book. Therefore, those pages must be copyrighted, and this is why his lawyers contacted you. But again, I had never seen the pages in question. I have no internet access here, and I do not even know what these things were. Again, Brian, I stress that I have never been involved with a book deal with Lawrence Klausner. I did not in any way cooperate with his writing this book. I never met with or communicated with this man. I don't even know what he looks like. Furthermore, I don't know if I believe that. Furthermore, I have never made any money from writing books. I do not believe in doing this. My prayers have been and always will be with the victims of my crimes. If I could be of further help to you, or if you have any questions, feel free to write me. David Berkowitz, blah, 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 Sullivan Correction. And it's notarized. I guess there's a notary in the prison. So that's that. Okay. I am going to come back to the chat. Let's see. We had Book, and now he's not here. Okay. We're moving on. So I found that interesting, and it's what I thought, which is basically Berkowitz saying he never had any dealings with Klausner. Okay, let's go through a little bit of this. David said his apartment was staged. He knew he was going to be arrested and planned to plead insanity. Apartment letters were part of the staging. Yet people keep repeating that Maury was obsessed with SOS till the day he died, but he had moved on to other projects. Yeah, no, he definitely. I don't ever say I don't say anything negative about anything. I mean, I preface this whole live saying that no, Klausner's still alive. Klausner's still alive. He just did that he just did the newest Netflix. Yeah, like I was saying, Ginger, I started this live stream saying I read everything. And I don't trash anybody, just like I don't appreciate being trashed. I don't trash anybody. I consider everything. Show me what you got. Show me the evidence, and I look at everything. And I'm quick. I mean, if I find something that refutes something that I said, I will post it. I don't have a, I'm not a victim. Well, maybe we all are in this community, but I'm not a victim, so I don't have vested interest other than I am very interested in this case, and so I look at everything. I don't, I don't win by pushing any narrative. I'm open to reading, looking at, listening to everything. Men don't get hysteria. Okay, no, they did, but in olden times, I know what you're talking about, P. Thomas. They used to say it about women because like of our menstrual cycle. So anytime a woman acted batty in any way, they said she's got hysteria. That was her clinical diagnosis. Yeah, he spent a lot of time on the Zodiac case, made some inroads. I don't know the exact time period. Worked with Ted Gunderson. Yeah. Maury spent much of 2014 working with Ed Sanders, right? Right. Just going through these real quick. Maury Terry. All right. All right. I'm going to come out of this for now. Let's shut this. I see a book waiting patiently. Let's shut that. And let's see. Hey, can you hear me? I see you, book, but I don't think that you have your microphone on. Let me see if there's something I need to do. On the microphone, it says no devices available. That's weird. I have you on. You have to set up your miking. Well, you don't have to do camera if you want to stay on the bubble. That's fine. But I can't hear you. Can anybody, I'm going to put the chat back on. Anybody hear book? Go get that tea, Pat. Oh. Oh, man. You're having? I'm not. Are you on mute? Maybe you got the mute on? Try to work it out. All right. So if there's no other questions, I don't know that I want to go deep into this, but let's at least, I'm not a victim. I like forensic. If you ever talk with him, God, he's got so much detail. I'm sure his hard drive is crazy, is bigger than mine. Okay. I'm not a victim, but I knew some of Berkowitz's friends who lived in a house near the pawn shop where Berkowitz bought the bulldog. I believe one of them was Phil Falcon. Yeah, I was kind of joking about the victim thing, although I don't know. Maybe not. All right. Let's see. David Berkowitz seems to be such a desperate individual to have a friend. He would join any type of cult to have a friend. So Maury Terry was seemingly told the truth about David's involvement in the cults. Hey, there are people in here, and this is what I love, is I like talking to everybody. And I don't, I think Whatever you believe, you believe. I know a lot of the people that feel differently than me always come up with receipts, so I'm always interested in hearing their take on things. Um, I'm always open to everything, and I'll tell you, it's much more interesting to have discussions with people who have some opposing views than just, going back and forth with people that kind of feel the same way that you do. And I feel different than everyone. I mean, I'm a whack job. I actually believe in demons. Okay, let's see. We're gonna try again. Let's Okay. Hello? Let's try getting you again. All right. Well, I see that you were able to write your name book. Are you still having sound issues? I'm gonna reload it and see if that helps. Oh, no, no, wait. I don't know if that I don't want it to throw I'm afraid that it might throw off my screen. I'm gonna reload you. It's something on my end? Okay. Hmm. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. Yeah, I don't know. My mic is working. I'm not sure. Like on my side, it looks like everything is on. I don't have you have anything weird. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, Book. I don't know what the deal is because on my side everything looks right. Something on my end won't give me mic access. I don't know how to allow that. If anybody's techie and knows, please put it in there. So I'm going to quickly summarize this. So we know that he was plugged in. He had a lot of contacts for his book, Klausner. I'm still of the same opinion that, a lot of that he has contacts for it. Did he embellish? I think absolutely. Um, there was a lot of money on the table at the time. Everybody was jumping on, the lawyers, the conservator, the psychiatrists, even his family, Berkowitz's family. Berkowitz jumps into stories. Why then later on is he bringing the demons back? I mean, what's the story there? Man, I'm sorry. I would have loved to have you on, Buck. You always have such good thoughts. Wow. I'll look into that for another stream. We looked at the acknowledgments and we heard from David Berkowitz, if this is the time you choose to believe him, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. He's saying he had no involvement with Klausner. And that's what I always thought. So, um, all right, let's go ahead and let's go back. I don't know how long I've been running. Oh my goodness, it looks like almost 2 hours. I'm going to jump back real quick and we'll finish off back in the Kings County file. Yeah, I shared a little bit here. Not lose my chat. So these are all these can be found in Klausner's book. Remember, we discussed these are the ones written in Kings County. These are after arrest. This I find interesting. So this is a journal written after he appeared in front of Starkey for one of his competencies. I'm going to move down a little bit in it, and I find it funny because I know who he's talking about in this, but he doesn't name him. But I just find it interesting. So picture Berkowitz in the courtroom. I believe the depth of this trial and the complexity of it was felt by Judge Starkey, who eventually panicked and sought escape. He apparently realized that this trial entails, and he either realized he couldn't handle it and or God had chosen a different judge for the purpose. I also believe Judge Starkey felt an alien presence in his head as he felt himself losing control, yet he continued to play into the spirit's hands. So we know that Starkey jumped off the case, right? And Corso took over. He took himself off the case. So he's basically saying in some of these letters, I don't know if you've gone through them, but they're really interesting. Berkowitz actually thinks he's seeing aliens, not just demons, or he's thinking that some of the demons are aliens. Okay, but this is the part that I found interesting. And I put, Glassman, I believe so. Coincidentally, one of the demons disguised in a human body was present at the trial and was also sitting in the last row in the courtroom. I have no doubt that mental telepathy was used here, and you're going to like this, Patrick. I have no doubt that mental telepathy was used here to control Starkey's mind. He was talking about Glassman, something I read where Glassman said, yeah, I was at the November court hearing and I sat in the back row. So I know he's talking about Grossman anyway. I shared that one for you, Nettie, because I knew you'd like that. That he was. Yep. Because Craig is Craig. All right. Oh, we're going to try one more time. All right. Okay, I got you assigned to the seat. Up, he's off. I guess that's a shame. Book wanted to join us, and we couldn't get the mic thing under control. Oh well. Anyway, I thought that yeah. I thought that you would like that. Glassman was controlling the judge's mind. So that kind of goes along with your theory. Yeah? You'll have to share that sometime. Very, very, very good. All right. Briefcase V2. Okay. Yeah, well, I think man, stay with me for a moment, guys. I'm just going to see if there's anything that I can do in terms of book club. If you're still listening, wait, let me. Try it like that. See if it comes through and allows you to see if it allows you to do the mic. Otherwise, I'm about to I'm going to sign off shortly because I'm done with mine, but I'm certainly interested if you have any good questions. Let's see. Dig through a few more of these. Hopefully he'll try like one more time, and then if not, we'll have to do it sometime. I mean, I love guests, but I guess it makes sense to try and do a little test run before. Let's see. During SOS years, Falcon was going to school and running his cafe called the Falcon's Nest in Minot. Yes. We need to jump back to some of I'll tell you, the cats in the Maury Terry's realm are so interesting. I mean, whether you believe that they're connected or not to the crimes, I know we kind of have a half-half audience. Whether you believe it or not, you know what? The cats are so interesting, and the stories are interesting, and a lot of them are real. So, all right, we're gonna try one more time.
Can you
And
hear me?
yes, I can hear you. Can I get a quick thumbs up from the audience if you can hear Book? Let me get this off the screen. Hey, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
Nothing much. Wow, what was up with that? Did it not
I
allow?
don't know. It worked on that way for whatever reason, whatever link I had, it just wouldn't let me in. Not a big deal. Really. It's
Well, I
working
hear,
now. So
yeah, I hear you loud and clearly, and I see the bubble, doing the pulse thing. Hey, so what's up? What'd you think? Did you have any questions?
no, I thought it was a good I missed some of the last part, but I thought it was a good conversation, and the thing with Klausner, I see a lot of different you know, the girls that supposedly he was going to shoot before Loria in Yonkers. I don't know where he got that from, and then he says she stabbed two women. And you had that letter that showed that Berkowitz vehemently denies stabbing the older woman. He just,
Right.
stabbed Foreman. So, there's just different things like that. And I think what it all comes down to, he named every police agency in New York State and all over the United States. I think that's just, whether or not he talked to everybody was probably just credibility,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, you have to admit, though, it was a pretty impressive acknowledgement list, no?
Yeah, I mean, whatever. All these reporters, these authors, they all have access to the police. Maury had access to the police. We know he had every report. All those reports on the website of Maury's. They were not FOIA'd.
I
Let's just get that out in the open right now.
Can we jump back because my dementia is hitting? So let's just jump back to Klausner for a
Sure.
moment, Doug. So you mentioned you're talking about the ones I did the video on, the ones that got away.
Yeah, yeah. Those are just little things, little nuances that, come up.
I found nothing on that other than what was in Klausner's book.
I never heard that anywhere before. And then, as far as the women, the stabbing, the Michelle Foreman, I mean, that was reported in the paper after the arrest. During the interrogation, Berkowitz does, I think, mention Foreman. And he never mentions a second woman. And then there's a letter to Abramson. I think you had it. You did something on that where, he says that in a letter to Abramson that he didn't stab the woman.
The elderly Hispanic woman, is that the
Yeah.
one you're referring to?
Yeah. There's that letter.
You're correct that he told that to Abramson. He said that Klausner made that up.
Right. I mean, which, it could very well be true because I don't think they found any reports. Yeah, I know Michelle Foreman didn't want to go through the ID. I don't think that the Bronx really wanted to push that either. Mario Marola, they had him for the shootings, and that was that. Just like, in the interrogation, he admits to shooting the elderly woman in Yonkers. That's the last thing Yonkers really wanted to dig into. They said that they did, but with that lawsuit that was going on, at that time, New York City was basically bankrupt, and I'm sure Yonkers wasn't that far behind.
Right.
So, it's those are just little things, with Klausner. So,
well, Foreman said that she couldn't ID him. I mean, she gave some description of him, but what
right.
she told the police that after the fact, he's the one who admitted to the doctors. He didn't. I don't remember anything, and you and I did them on a video. Went through the DA transcripts, and there was nothing there of him talking about Foreman. It was to the psychiatrist that he told about Foreman, and then it appeared in the Daily News and the New York Times.
Right. So again, I mean, not that that makes a difference. I mean, there's not really much to talk about. Well, there is and there isn't. You know, I think you could go on forever about all of this stuff, and you could break it down. And what you did recently with, which I found very interesting, with the lawsuits with Lipsig and Violante and Lupo, and that there was no money because this book really tanked. There wasn't a lot of money, so that's when Lipsig went after Scientology, and then you have all of a sudden now Scientology, hence the process and everything like that, is brought into all of this.
Well, the Scientology had money. That was
Right,
it was a theory that I just put out there because why was Lipstick so hot on Scientology?
right.
Because Lipstick was the tort lawyer. He went after big dollar cases. He didn't go after scrubby dollar cases. He went after big dollar cases. And you know what I find interesting that I've looked and looked and looked and I cannot find? I heard that Maury Terry and Lipsig were threatened by Scientology and that there was some emails or something like that about it. And I've looked. Have you come across anything like that?
I mean, I think they might have been in the files that Judge Zeman has. I don't know. I never really uh,
They're
looked
not in the
into.
Maury Terry files that I have. The
All right.
ones that
Well, I mean, they're incomplete in my opinion. I believe that all the files were given to Maury, and by I mean given to them, I think that there was probably some sour grapes, and he acquired those from someone, from the police department, and I think I was involved. Uh, with Manny with some of the shows with the reports. I think you can see how, he takes those reports and he crafts his narrative for the ultimate evil, and that's been, beaten down 100 different times. But, those reports, I think, he had all of them.
Mhm.
They're very incomplete. For the people out there who are really into it, if you go to the Berkowitz, the People versus David Berkowitz website, the most complete victims files there are Suriani Esau. They're all there. You see the indexes for the DD5s, or should I say Detective Division 5s.
Yes.
Uh, they're all there, and the indexes, they're broken down by 50. They're in numerical order. They're all there. They're very organized. Originally, when they came out, there was only 15 or 16 files of those, and then the full complete set was listed on at a later date. Same with the Loria files. There was 15 or 16. Then there was another drop, and those two drops, you have the complete files with the index. So it's very frustrating as it is to look at the redacted, reports, but there's a lot missing there.
Well, I know
And it is
you're
what it is.
yeah, I know that you're the type of guy book that doesn't like a lot of hoopla, but I would like to take this time since you jumped on with me here. Um, Book club, unbelievably, because I could have never done this myself. He helped me on the timeline organize the police reports because they were all over the place. And he found, God, he found shit. I don't know where he found it. Somehow we've got it, as far as I'm concerned, we got it as best in the best organization that they're ever going to get.
Well, yeah, I mean, you
So,
hear, because again, like, I caught the tail end. I try to watch everything when I can, and I try to, learn as much as I can. So we know that those files were categorized. I think Zeman paid a few people to try to get them in order. And, so again, if you don't really know what you're looking at with those, it's kind of hard. It was a big puzzle piece for me to do. Some of the stuff was easy because there was only three or four files, but like I said, that drop of the and I was so happy when I saw the Suriani Esau. They were all in perfect order. We didn't have to go through those. But the Freund, there was like sometimes duplicate and triplicate copies of reports. So I kind of figured out their numbering system. And I guess whatever you have now, the files that we organize are as best as they can. There was some stuff that was released recently. uh I forget where it was, but again, I looked at those files and there was like 30 pages. And I think out of those 30 pages, there was like 10 or 11 new files that we didn't have, page twos. So we were able to, merge them into the files. So it's about as complete as you get. But that wasn't FOIA. That stuff was never FOIA. If the Savino reports aren't, or if those FOIAs aren't going to be announced, or they're not going to be, taken care of, uh, what makes you think in reality world, everyone take your tinfoil hats off. What do you think? Do you think the NYPD was going to release those files on the Son of Sam through a FOIA when everyone says they used the floods and they used
Yeah.
yeah, of course. Of course. And then when you're dropping internal affair complaints on this detective that was working on the Savino thing, when he walked out the door, he probably said something like, "Don't ever release these files." I mean, people got to get with it. They think that they're going to get everything. And this was brought up, I think, yesterday on a live stream. And again, I think Mike Lorenzo was saying it's the system. So you got to play nice sometimes. All those other files. Listen, I'm very, very thankful for the site. I know that a lot was contributed to that. I know that those Yonkers reports that we used for, the car crimes and the
Right.
and the Netto crimes, they were all, I think given to Paul, and he brought them to the website. At least that's what I see. For me now, I don't care about the case. I don't care what anybody thinks. I feel a certain way. I was a big Ultimate Evil fan. I changed my mind, and I looked at the reports, and I'm not. I'll never go down that road again and believe something until I can see the reports, whether they're redacted or
Right.
not, and to be able to make my, uh, conclusion.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, when the you know how I feel. I mean, I'm so grateful. When I got into my Son of Sam research, I had this is what I started with. I had a couple books. I had a couple Abrahamson letters. This is before the drop of anything. I had a couple Abrahamson letters, and that was about it. So when the drop came, I was so excited, and to this day, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I have my ideas, but wherever I don't want to say his name because I don't want to dox anybody, but wherever JC got the stuff from, I don't care. I'm grateful for
No,
it,
no,
and
I get you 100%.
I'm
But
grateful for it, and it's just so much more that I could have ever asked for, especially getting all, well, or at least a lot more on what I had. Because prior to the dump, I had some letters from Colombia from Abrahamson. I FOIA'd. I'm going to tell you, I FOIA'd, and I got the arraignment. They sent me some bullshit, which wasn't juicy, but it was still something. So I did get that, and I want to say that that was from the Brooklyn DA that I got that. That was before anything came out. And then we hadn't seen anything for so many years. But now that I look at it, I'm starting to learn that a lot of people had police reports, they just weren't public,
yeah, I
which
mean,
is fine. I mean,
well, hey, listen, I never knew. I don't really do the social media, so to have these groups, I loved that the Ultimate Evil. When the documentary came out, I saw that, stumbled upon, Manny Grossman on YouTube, really got into watching that. That was the whole evolution. I didn't even really know the background of the story. I mean, I got involved, with him, and did some shows, and we analyzed reports, and in the beginning, I was involved with a lot of people, and then people go off and they do their own thing, and that's fine. Like I'm all right. I just kind of like I like doing my own thing, and I'll watch the stuff. But yeah, I think the website was great. Once I saw that website, and I think that there's a lot of hardcore people that were in that group with Maury. Uh, once they saw those reports, they totally changed their mind. And then there's some people that, okay, I thought with the files that we'd be able to prove stuff, whatever he had. And if you're seeing whatever's being done now with the flipper list, which, I think is good, he didn't follow up on anything. So getting back to Brother John, and that's when we had come across that thing. If he did know Brother John in Sacred Heart, and now this is the way I see it. The book comes out. I got it. All these people get it. They read it. You got Geraldo, all this stuff. And then people came to him. You had Billy the artist, bamboozle him, whatever was going on. You had John Paul Ranieri come out of the woodwork. You had Jesse Turner come out of the woodwork. And again, all these different things that came. So here's my, and I saw that on your wall, and it said, what's the, relevance of him knowing Maury Terry? Well, if they even kind of knew each other in school, they didn't have to be friends, but they knew each other. They're from Yonkers. He reads the book, and you're seeing what's being done on him out in with Dahmer, and I don't know much about Brother John. What I've seen from these different videos and things of that, he's probably like, hey, I remember this dude Maury Terry. I'm going to reach out to him, and it could have very well happened. Whatever happened to him very well could have happened to him. And the more and more I think about it, is I think Maury was actually onto things. And I just don't think it was related to Son of Sam.
Oh,
So
I
I don't want to
believe
get down that conspiracy hole, and it's just, but yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on about that. And I'll tell you what, like, you have some people saying, oh, nothing was going on in Untermeyer Park. I happen to rewatch the O'Shaughnessy series from Manny's channel. And, and this guy's name came up yesterday, Gary Hanley. Gary Hanley and John Rinciari are talking about how they actually had a detail overnight in Untermeyer because there was complaints of stuff going on. So the police actually went out there, and I guess they spent the night in Untermeyer, and I don't think they found anything, but whatever was going on was going on. And I think that's what, drew Maury to that case too. He was from Yonkers. He again, if you believe what's going on, was John Carr in his homeroom, all these things. So, people get compelled because, hey, I grew up in Yonkers. I never knew about this. Let me look into this. Or Maury Terry's like, whoa, this is crazy. So, they get in and they start digging, but, you could easily connect dots and, fall down a conspiracy hole. So that's something out of the blue. And then to take that to another, realm, they're talking about this second book and how Maury Terry picked up Joel Steinberg from prison. I think, again, there was that connection there, but I think the connection that was going on, you had this Yonkers connection, the way maybe Ranieri had this connection with him, with Maury. So Maury reaches out to Joel Steinberg. Hey, I'm from Yonkers. I believe that he was going to try to bring the whole Steinberg thing into the case as well. He was connecting every crime. If you look at those files, he collects obituaries, newspaper articles. It's like, it's sort of a psychosis. But as far as Steinberg, I believe that he was going to try to say that that little girl was taken out to Roy Radin's mansion because there's a book, What Lisa Knew. And I actually read that book. And when I was reading it, they brought up something out in Long Island. And I almost, I got that whole Roy Radin vibe. So who knows what he was going to do and try to connect. Again, I don't think he wanted to go out of his way. He didn't contact half the people, but if people were going to come to him, then he would take it and run with it.
I think that he was onto so much. I really do. I don't believe that they were directly linked to the shootings, but I think Maury was actually onto a lot there. I mean, we can't close our eyes to things that they go on this they go on to this day. I mean, that kind of stuff. It was going on in Brooklyn. It was going on in Staten Island. You had the Forever Family in Staten Island. I can only imagine, especially, going north. Yonkers, you're ready to me, to a Brooklyn girl that's upstate. The more you go up to the woods in that at that time, you know that there was stuff going down. I just think that so much got linked together, or is trying to be linked together, and each thing really needs to be looked at independently. And that's why I really appreciated the work. Breaking down the Maury Terry links, because there's so much. I mean, I learned so much myself, because I never considered myself much of an expert on Maury Terry's book, even though I read it and all that stuff. It forced me to go back and say, you know what? I've given the police report so much time. I've given this so much time. I am going to totally do the same thing. And man, I learned so much with the Raiden, with the what's his name? I'm actually on the other screen trying to bring up the timeline. I don't even know where are the opposing cats?
The what?
No, never mind. I'm not going to bring it up now. It's kind of running late, but maybe.
Well, let's just go into one thing. Can you bring the timeline up or no?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to go, because if sitting back for a couple of years, just watching all this, craziness and trying to get involved with different things. But, listen,
Yeah.
if the question was asked, what did I do? I did absolutely nothing. I sat back, I watched, right? I had a good time with the people that I worked with when I was working with them. And I really got into the case and I learned a lot. But I'm going to tell you something. What I did do, and this happened well after the fact, and it has to do with the website. Once all these reports came, into play, we have the police report. So I have a little bit of experience with that. So recently, we're told that Zigo was in the Neto house on the day that Stacy Moskowitz was shot. All right, but according to the timeline and according to supporting documentation, because I think what we do with everything is you have newspaper articles that you can't always, rely on. So you have the newspaper articles, you have police reports, you have books, and then you got to have like common sense too. You throw that all into a bowl, mix it up, and hopefully you could come up with a theory. So if you have the timeline, can you bring up the Neto slide?
Of course I can. Just give me 1 second. I want to take off yeah, there we go. Let me see if I can size it just a little bit better.
All right.
All right. Can you see it? I think I have it up.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, cool. Okay, you want to see Neto? Okay, Neto family harassment. What are we looking for? The NYPD follow-up?
Yeah. I just want to, this is what I do. So, this is a report again. Now, I know the date is kind of faded up top. I think it says July 31st.
It does. I actually went and it doesn't represent it too much here, but I blew it up and contrasted it. And the date is 7/31/77.
Right. So again, with this particular report, because it looks like there was always maybe two different versions of the DD5, But anyway, that July 31st actually refers to the date of the incident, the Moskowitz incident.
Correct.
So you got to use the dates, and like I said, you try to put stuff in chronological order. But when you read these reports, sometimes the body of the report tells you a lot more. So, I just kind of found this ironic. So, if you go here, it says subject, interview, and then everything is redacted. All right. So,
Do you want to go through this, or do you want me to go down to that last
no,
sentence?
no, no. Let's go through the whole thing.
Okay, you got it.
So it says, interview of, and you have all these redactions. So I'm sure that says the nettos, and I'm sure it has a date there. Okay. And
Right.
I'm only saying this because at the end, you're going to see that it all sort of makes sense.
Okay.
So basically, what happens here, and I believe that this was post arrest. Okay. And this is after he's arrested. So this is, I think Velocito is the guy who makes the report because it says there, and him and Zigo go up and they interview the Nettos at approximately 14:30 hours, which is 2:30 in the afternoon. And Mrs. Netto lives with the husband, 13-year-old daughter, owner of a German Shepherd dog, and on Christmas Eve, 1976, so shot and killed. The dog was removed by the Yonkers Police Department. Front of the house bore holes. Approximately 1 month later, her house was firebombed. So we know that's not true, right?
Right.
Because the firebombing took place before. Now, how do we know that? We have those Yonkers reports,
Correct.
right? And they're all on the timeline there for each incident. All right. So, well, we'll go back and look at that after. So, okay. So right then and there, what I'm trying to say here is Velocito and Zito, they hear about this stuff. They're going there just to cross their I's and dot their T's. They don't care about any of these crimes because they didn't happen in the city. All right. This is more Yonkers' problem. So they're not even really paying much attention. Okay. They're listening to them. They're probably writing some notes down, and then they go back and they type the DD5.
So what you're
So,
saying is that they used the 7/31 because that was the date of
right,
the
right.
shooting.
And that'll all make sense in the end. So now
Okay.
if you go to the second page, in the latter part of May 77, a letter was addressed. Now I know I don't have the dates in my head, but I know you have them in the timeline. And they threw that out, which we know that was true. And then four, Mrs. Neto said, yeah, she threw the letter away. Okay, so here it is. Number 5. When the paper showed photos of David Berkowitz, the Neto family felt it was he who was running away from the house on the evening their dog was killed. They saw the rear of the man holding a rifle running down the hill.
Yep.
So the date, this kind of backs up that this was post arrest. Because when did they see when the paper showed photos of Berkowitz? Right? So that
Right.
was after the arrest. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
So
You're
So they were
referring to
they were
number 5
there
on
after
here.
the arrest. They weren't there on the day of the arrest. Now, this brings me to the next question that everyone likes to throw about. So, in the whole Savino case, when she sees him, she says, "That's him." And yeah, is that a tainted ID? Of course it is. Absolutely, textbook tainted ID. But so now here, are we going to say that Berkowitz didn't shoot the Netto dog? From because they saw his picture afterwards. When Damasi sees him afterwards, he says, "That's him." It's it's a fine line. You can't, take a stand on one thing when now you have reports. So according to that theory, then all of a sudden, then he didn't shoot the dog because they saw him after the arrest when he was being paraded around. And all those arguments are great. I get all of that. I get all of that 100%. And I can understand it. But that's it. But now
But
If you
would
go
you
back now,
agree that we have to take each situation and look at it critically, and we can't
right,
throw everything
right.
into a big bag of theory? We have to look at everything critically and individually,
And
and
what I
then
say,
make links?
you got to take everything that's available to you. The reports, you can't be on the record as saying, I just started listening to tapes when you're talking about stuff months before that have to do with the tapes.
Yep.
All right.
Did you
Yeah,
want me to
just
go
go
back
back
to
to the
the
Neto slide. So, you see here it says, and great. If those Yonkers reports were gotten from someone and given to the guy at the website, that's great. But they're saying that, whatever it is, it was firebombed 1 month later. So that would make it January of 77. What do you have for what do we have for that now? When's the firebombing take place?
okay, the
May
Molotov
of
cocktail is
76.
May 13th, 1976
Right.
was the Molotov cocktail.
See, Feliciano and Zigo were there saying, oh, it happened a month later, January of 77, when all the Neto crimes pretty much happened in 76. So
Correct.
what I'm trying to say is they really weren't listening to them. Same with Speraza, right? And is Speraza the getaway driver? There's a lot of debate about that. But just think of what we have to deal with the reports. The day of the arrest. All right. So we have Berkowitz, according to the tapes of Speraza, we have Berkowitz and Speraza, you know, together having a drink Christmas Eve. Now,
Eating
Richie's
eggplant
saying Richie's saying that he left,
with the
right?
mailman.
Right, right, right. So again, Richie's saying that Berkowitz left. Why would Richie on the day that Berkowitz gets collared or the day after gets picked up by Yonkers and the guy's like totally distraught? He's probably high or drunk. Uh, Now I'm not saying that this is fact, but you would think if he was with Berkowitz the night driving, oh, well, why would he be in a getaway car if he lived up the block and then, it's hilly or whatever? But if you're going to do something, then you get the hell out of there. And then you circle back and you come back at a later date. It's like, I don't know. Sometimes people just don't have common sense. Or again, a lot of times my experience kind of leads me in a different direction, the way I look at things. But if you look at different things, so if Speraza gets picked up and he's like, I had nothing to do with this guy, I had nothing to do with this guy. Now he's not going to cop to the shooting unless they ask him of the dog, but he wants it to be known that he's flipping out, that he doesn't want anything to do with Berkowitz. He had nothing to do with it.
So, Book, what you're saying is, do you think that it's possible that maybe he did have something to do with just the dog, and
Yeah,
because Berkowitz was collared as
yeah.
the son of Sam, he's
And,
like,
and because
"Oh, I
Berkowitz
gotta
lives a
get
block
myself."
and because Berkowitz lives a block away on a hill, well, he could easily walk there. Well, let me tell you something. In my experience, people who commit crimes get the hell out. You know. So
Hey, it's possible, but I just didn't see that there was controversy with the color of the car, and then the seeing of the getaway car kind of came afterwards. But wasn't it the uncle or whatnot was there, and he was the one who actually saw the car, and not Sylvia. Refresh
yeah,
my
the uncle saw it.
recollection.
The uncle was
Yeah.
a Fed. The uncle ran down and, he was a Fed. Was it the car? I don't know. They're talking about a red car, but I don't think that was his. I think that was someone else. And again, it's Christmas Eve, if you're leaving a house that you were just at and you hear gunshots, wouldn't you want to get in that damn car and drive the hell away?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Again, I mean, I see Pat say, oh, common sense tells me that. Patrick, common sense and you, sorry, dude, they don't mix.
Oh, that's my nutty buddy.
Yeah.
I got
Great
him.
guy, but Don't talk about common sense, bro.
He's no, he's just a little wild theory. That's my nutty buddy. Don't fuck with my Patrick.
But you know what? I gotta say, tonight, what I saw yesterday, I didn't get to catch it live, but I did watch the replay with Rena and Eric. I thought there was some good conversation. I thought, Mike Lorenzo joined in and, was saying what he had to do. And that's what needs to happen, to have these different conversations and, talk about the case. There's so much to talk about.
I didn't catch Mike. What can you abbreviate
They were
what
just they were
Mike
just asking him a
Lorenzo?
whole bunch. They were asking him a whole bunch of questions, and he was
Oh, let
trying
me
to
guess
answer.
about Savino.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
best of his ability. And
Okay.
again, like I said, I have no comment on Savino until I can, get my hands on the paper on the paperwork, and which I don't think is gonna happen.
Yeah, that was my next comment to you was, I hate to say it. I mean, I kind of lost interest with the bullshit with the FOIA. You know that I FOIA'd that shit twice and I just got pissed off. So I'm like, you know what? I don't even have a comment. But I do want to say quickly, I want to read Patrick's thing. I'm cool, thick skin over here. Everyone likes to pick on me. I totally agree with that. Patrick, man, let me tell you, in all the years now that I know you with this SOS thing, I have never, and you have some crazy shit, and I I have seen people tease you, but I have never seen Patrick say a bad word to anybody. So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, I remember Patrick has two shovels over
Two
on
shovels.
locals.
Yep, two
Yep,
shovels.
yep. I
Yep.
definitely reminded. He's actually has some really far out theories, which is cool, man.
Listen,
Whatever you're smoking, keep smoking it.
he's an organic gardener.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
know.
anyhow, well, anything else on this that you want to cover? Because it's
No,
like almost
I mean, I think this has just been, I have to say, like, the last couple, I saw it yesterday, I've seen some good comments. I see Omega, comment here and there, always comes up with some good comments. And I think it's good. As far as, whatever you want to say, community. I mean, listen, I got thrown out of groups for not saying anything. I guess because who I was, because I had been on a couple of shows. I mean, the crap that goes on, I just sort of say low key, but there's
oh,
certain.
okay, like guilt by association, like you're not allowed to be
Yeah, I mean,
brought
my
to
my
this
whole
one.
deal, my whole deal is this. It's just like, it's good to have these discussions. But what did I do? Well, I could correct mistakes. That's what I can do, just based on simple reading comprehension. And I love talking the case, but you really can't talk it.
I agree with you 100. It's like everybody's playing, the whole big cock contest, and I don't have time for that shit. I just want to talk about the case. That's it. Are you
Now,
gonna?
listen. I mean, I've seen some good stuff, and that's the thing. That's the one thing I will go on and say. Um, the one thing that it takes a lot of crap for, uh, and some of it he brings onto himself. But the one thing, you can mention his name, you can mention Manny's name, you mention whoever's name you want to mention, but you know Billy the artist, he came up with that. People want to say now Billy, Billy and Danny are composite to Alex Varone. But whose words are those? You know what I mean? If you're gonna, at least give a little bit of credit for some of the work that was done, because it's the only work that was really done. Lone shooter people, right? Neo wrote a book, great, good book, came up with some good stuff. Everyone thought that website was going to vindicate Maury. When it first came out, it evolved. Everything that I saw from the reports was like, whoa, I could just see how he used these reports to write the ultimate evil and twist things. And then you had the whole, which made me really curious, was you had the whole then educational section on FOIA. FOIA wasn't around in the 70s, really. It became more of a thing afterwards. And that website gives it a history. It gives it a great history, actually. And then, when all these other things started dropping, and then they dropped, the flipper list and all these things. And was that going to prove anything? What they're doing right now with that flipper list
What are you
is
talking
showing
about?
that
Oh, Galati and Reina.
Rena, yeah, they're showing that he didn't follow up on anything.
I find it funny that as soon as I started putting out my series on Maury Terry, all of a sudden everybody's trying to hijack it, which is cool. Listen, we all looking at the same stuff. I wish we could all talk about it, but it's just funny because there's a lot that people don't know. I'll just say that much, and I'll leave it at
Well,
that.
I mean, and some people, like I said, if you're going to sit there and like muse over a word in a report, well, it says tomato, but maybe it means tomato. You, I mean that's not getting anywhere. You got to take everything. Like I said, I've said it to everybody. I think I've said it before. I might even said it on one of the streams I did with Manny. Is you got to just take everything and you know, like I said, everything that's available, the newspaper articles, some of the stuff that you've come up with those archives, like I don't think people realize, the stuff that went on with the NYPD. I don't think Zigo and Felicitor were on Omega. They were the 10th homicide. They were after just the Brooklyn thing alone, and they were working maybe in conjunction with Omega. So, there's a lot of stuff that went on behind the scenes in NYPD. Who got promoted? Who didn't get promoted?
Hey, listen, I can't do it now because I don't even know what time it is. It's like almost 12 o'clock. But that would be a nice segue for, would you be interested if we could get another like late night where we could do Omega? That whole slide is amazing.
Yeah, I mean it's a good slide. I think it just shows that I think what you did with a lot of that stuff is you give back history on people, which is good. And
That's what I'm about.
what
I'm about giving the information. I don't, and you know me,
right.
I barely don't even talk my own theories on different things. I find information, I present it, I listen to information, I assimilate it, and that's it. I don't claim to be anything. I've never claimed to be an expert on anything. I just am so interested in this case, and I have found a lot of shit, and over the years and whatnot. And like I said, I mean, I say this in group too. I got a big hard drive filled with time-stamped information. So, I'll just, since you ranted a lot, I'm going to rant a little bit too. When I hear shit that, I stole shit from people, fuck you. That's what I got to say. And now I'll move on.
Yeah, I mean the great thing
Omega.
about no, with the Omega Task Force was like, through newspaper articles, and you find out that Strano was really big on Cecilia Davis, but Philoxeno, I think there's an article that he was big on Zeno. But then now if you pull Zeno apart, I know we did stuff on that. His story changed so many different times. So he was one of those guys that was being, massaged. You had, Nisa Moskowitz carving things into her arms. I mean, that's all whatever, and that's where you see the craziness of all of this. So for me now, I believe what I believe, and what really is intriguing to me now is all these little backstories and all these other things, which you saw how the press manipulated stuff, and but I think here and there you always come across like a little bit of a a puzzle piece that you could fit in and make a little bit more of
And that's what I'm about. And I am going to share Patrick's message here. Rosie is like the librarian, the SOS scribe. That multimedia timeline is the bomb.
Well, I will say that
Thank
timeline
you,
is
Patrick.
very, very informative. Very informative.
Thank you so much, because let me tell you, a lot of work went into it. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I initially shared it, for some reason, I thought people were going to want to work together and share information. be grateful and maybe add to it, because I'm not the type of person that I put something out. Listen, if I got something wrong or you have something to add to it, share it, man. That's I'm not saying I'm the, says all end all or whatever the stupid saying is. I thought I was foolish enough to think that this was going to be a nice opportunity for people to really want to work together. And I was like an idiot. You know what I got told? I got told that I was stealing people's fucking work. Okay. And now I'm moving on again. Tom.
No, but I thought this was a good stream. I thought you brought up some good stuff. I mean, we go back and forth, and we send stuff and analyze different things. But as far as the timeline goes, yeah, I mean that's about as comprehensive as you could get. Everyone's going to take it. You can take it for what it's worth. It just has everything consolidated. You have
Yeah.
your reels on stuff. You have the reports. We've organized things a little bit better. You have a lot of newspaper articles, backstories on people. So it was a lot of fun. It was a learning experience with all of these, to find all these different things. And yeah, it's great to have, at your fingertips to be able to pick stuff up like, we just did with that report. And, you can go on. And,
Well, I'll
there's so
tell
many
you.
things that I think you forget about. You forgot that it's even on that timeline.
Oh, you're not kidding me. But I mean, even all the periodicals that we have, it's not just about newspaper articles. It's about the organization of stuff. It's about the links that we have made. I mean, even to the point where little things like that have nothing to do with the case, like Strano and Cecilia.
Yeah, no, but and then there's some funny things, and I know
Yeah. Listen,
you do a lot of artsy stuff, so it's cool. And I'll be quite honest with you, it's kind of hard to find a lot of articles. So it's good when everything's there, categorized by the different just the different events. And then you're able to put a lot of stuff together with certain things. And again, you always give credit to what you get. So,
always.
if you're going to get like a letter from, say, the Medium blog, which you did, and you put it there. I know for a fact, because I've seen it, there's things on there that you get from different things. And again, if you want to steal, like the internet, if it's on the internet, it's not stolen because everyone has access to it. But there's certain things that you don't have access to. And there's
Exactly.
certain
You know what they don't have access to? They don't have access to my brain. And like I said, I give people credit where it's due. And let me tell you, the same goes for, it doesn't matter what we think, if we think differently. Everybody who I've ever used anything from has gotten credit. That there are times where I don't want to take things from people because I really don't even want to put their name on my timeline. But the truth is, I'm not going to be like that. Everybody gets credit. I am not stupid. I mean, I know that where everything came from, and not, you know what I'm saying. Listen, I've put it out there. If you didn't get credit for something, grow up and send me an email and I will make it right. Because listen, with all the information I have and everything that you can Google now, a lot of times you Google stuff and I don't know if somebody showed it on a stream a year ago, because if they did, that means I showed it on a stream 3 years ago. Okay. So, listen, when I put information out, it's from the heart. It's that I'm hoping that people either agree or disagree or just have some notes that they might be able to share back. But once I put it out there, it's out there. It would just be nice to get a shout out once in a while. I'm cool with not getting a shout out. Don't call me a thief. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And I'm going to move on from that.
Well, listen, like I said, I think it was good. was able to come on and just clear some stuff up or just shoot the breeze and see in the chat different things. I see Patrick giving me a shout out. Thanks a lot, Patrick. I mean,
That's a good guy.
whatever. I mean, listen, I have no problems with anybody. People think certain ways. I was always said that I had to wait for a certain date before I really came out because I really thought that there was this whole conspiracy thing. And I got to say, once the website dropped, then it was like, I was just like, wow, and whoever, got that stuff or whoever released it and renamed it, whatever. It's all there. It should all come out. But those reports are not um, complete, and they were not getting. Maybe that the Howell stuff might have been FOIA'd. I don't know. As far as anything that has to do with the Son of Sam case, I can tell you, first and foremost, the NYPD would never release any of it. Just like Yonkers buried stuff. And, if Neo got it from somebody, well, that's great. I don't even want to get started on the apartment letters because they look like that they were lifted from the apartment. And I don't even know if the NYPD had those.
I don't know. I guess that's a discussion for
There's a
another
lot
day.
of things that was lifted from that apartment.
Yep.
From things
Yep.
I've heard, from things that's been stated. Patrick O'Shaughnessy, if you go back and listen to those, I forget which one it is, has on one of those tapes says something pretty funny that backs it up. So
Good night, Forensics. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Take care, Forensics. A lot of things could have went missing. If you're smart enough, you could craft. Well, a certain gun could have went missing from that apartment. Would have made a nice throwaway. Again, you got to bring a little bit of the real world into this.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to get into that discussion tonight. I think a lot of people feel a certain way, just because. And I'm, like I said, I never got the reports. I'm pissed about the FOIA shit, so I don't have an opinion on it. I'm just going to continue doing my work, being Rosie Sola. And I'm glad that you jumped on because honestly, it was more about boredom tonight. I don't know that I really had I really don't know that I had a serious agenda. I just kind of wanted to cover a little bit of the Klausner, give some of the information that I had. I jumped around a little bit, but I hope that people take at least something. I don't ever tell people what to think because I really don't care what they think. I really don't care, but I hope that to some degree my stuff could at least help them in their own research or whatever. But
Well, I think the stuff that you have is good. I mean, it's kind of funny because you could sit and you can listen to certain things and be like, wait a second, then you can go and look it up like just right away and say, oh wow, yeah, wow, okay, this that, and you've come up with some good stuff. You threw my way, that whole Scientology thing kind of blew me away, and
the tapes and the letters and all that. People just like throwing clips and stuff, but you know what? I find I got the history on it. I got the goods and I got the receipts. So we got to do this again. And I mean, I don't know about the Omega. That might be boring. Maybe that could just be the intro. But think about what you want to cover.
I don't even know. I mean, I think I always told you from conversation the whole follow the money thing. And, how, like, this case is like no other. The way the press took it and how it jumped, like, even with these books, like, I was told that, I have a copy of it, a digital copy of it. I never read it, was the Carposi book. And I was told by someone, oh, this is the best book. And it came out quick. And then I skimmed it and I saw that Carposi had Denaro getting shot in the parking lot of Pex. And I was like, what? So it's like, so it's funny, you have all these different books that come out, and especially at that time, the stuff that was coming out. But, you had that guy, Hamratz, right? Hugo Hamratz, that whole thing with that book, and
Harmatz, yeah, he was
yeah, all
a
those different.
lawyer.
I didn't even realize any of these books existed until we started looking at all these different things, and to this day, books coming out, series, and I can't say enough about the killer tapes, which
Yeah.
again, the killer tapes and the website came out uh, well after I was really, I'd stopped conversating with people, and from the killer tapes, I think really, gives a lot, and those were based on Klausner and Abramson books.
Well, yeah, they gave the narration from those books. So that was the part of it that I didn't like, to be honest with you. I could have you could have thrown me the raw videos with just the conversation between Jones and Berkowitz, and I would have made a pot of coffee and I would have enjoyed that. I would have nerded out on that more than the glossy narration of it. Although I think they did a lovely job. Don't get me wrong. I think they did a wonderful job with it. Badgley did a great job with it. To me personally, because I'm a geek, that was my least favorite thing. I would have just liked the raw
Right.
shit.
Well, fun fact about that, and I think because you had I know you had some correspondence with them. I had reached out to, I think, Jack Jones on Facebook, and he got back to me. And I set up a Zoom. He set up a Zoom, and I had a Zoom with Badgley and Jones. And I had given him your contact information, and I gave him Manny's contact information. And they did a show with Manny, and when I was talking to them, they were like kind of like, it was a Zoom, so we saw each other, and I was going on and on about the case, like I was doing tonight, like 100 miles an hour, and they were like looking at me like, and then I brought up Maury Terry, and they just laughed. They laughed, and I found that I found that really really telling to me. So yeah, that's a little fun fact. But yeah, I thought it was a good series. I wish it was more, and I wish Jack would have wrote a book.
Yeah, well, who knows? I mean, he had family things go on, and remember, that was also a contact that Berkowitz sought out. Jack
Yeah, and
Jones
they were both
was not.
military veterans, and Jack was looking to do right by prisoners, and he was a big military supporter. So I think David was, at that time, pretty truthful to him, with a lot of that. I don't know if the guy's always truthful, but I found a lot of stuff compelling with that. And as
Mhm.
far as one of the things was, I believe it was from there where the Freund shooting, that he was actually going to shoot other people, but instead he dug their car out of the snow.
Oh,
And
the snow job. I remember that.
yeah. So that,
But
yeah, it was good stuff.
yeah, listen, there's always stuff to talk about. Like I said, this was a Saturday Night Live. I'm glad that we covered a bunch of things. As I said earlier, I don't discount anything, and that's why I'm really interested in jumping back. I agree with you. I mean, I'll go back and I'll do some of my, only because my stuff is real deep diving. I'm not just reading a list. So I will cover little bits of the Maury Terry here and there. I've been trying to move to another platform where I could put all of it together, like in a podcast. But anyway, I don't want to get too into that right now. So I have it. I just have to pull it together and present it. It's all done. And what I need at this point, I think we should really. I mean, if you think Omega would be boring, let's schedule a time and maybe we could get another guest on with us and we go through that follow the money or something like that.
I just want to address Ginger here. So Jack Jones said he never knew Maury's book or knew of it. I don't know about that, Ginger. Like I said, I spoke to Jack Jones. They knew of the book. I think out of all the books that were out there, Maury's book was, the pinnacle, A Son of Sam. I mean, I never knew of Carposi. I knew of Klausner. I read Klausner. My dad had bought the Klausner book, and I read that when I was, kind of young. And then I found The Ultimate Evil in like 87 or 88. So that book again was, I was really into it, believed all of that up until 2021, and was on that train and following all that stuff. But you gotta understand too. A lot of these people were brought up. Like, how the hell are they finding these people out? And now you know the whole story of everything, the
Yeah.
backstory, and like I said, the whole thing that has gone on behind the scenes. What is considered the community today is more intriguing to me now than the case itself.
Well,
So yeah,
and as
it's,
you know, I came from a community, a true crime community, two different ones, the Watts community as well as the whatchamacallit. Oh, anyway, mostly Watts was my thing, and the community got so toxic. I mean, by the time with the threats and people suing each other and everything, that I finally I'm like, I'm done with this.
yeah, I
And
don't follow any cases. I don't like true crime. I don't, I just, I kind of like look at things in passing, and
yeah,
then I see Jones told Manny only a few years ago that he never read Maury's book. Yeah, he never read it. There's people here. Not to shout him out, but Patrick said he's never read the book. There's people that never read the book. There's actual victims that I don't believe have ever read the files. So that it's like, oh, I'm not gonna listen to killer tapes because maybe my political views don't align with one of their political views. It's like, how could you not absorb everything and
right.
then digest it and try to come to your own conclusion. I'm not going to say I don't watch this stream. I don't watch that stream. I try to read whatever I can read. I'll read the different blogs. I might not agree with certain things. Sometimes I just, after a while, it gets hazy, but I try to read everything. I try to, consume as much as I can. And,
Yeah.
like I said, I've never read the Carposi book. I have a digital copy, but again, from what I saw just from breezing it, I don't know if I would waste my time. And I
See,
gotta say,
I think it's worth it because at this point, you know the case so well that whatever the inconsistencies, I just gloss right over them because I know the case so well that when something's wrong, I just move over it. What I liked, and this might not appeal to you, what I liked about Carposi was that he went a little deeper into the military, a little bit more information there, and then he talked about Iris. And I'm a sucker for a love story. So that's
right.
why I like the Carposi book. But other than that, remember what I said earlier in the stream. Carposi got the advance for that book before Berkowitz was even identified and caught. And then he had like a deadline. He got like the first book out like 4 or 5 weeks after the arrest, and then the other one, Breslin, with that crazy ass book that he put out. It was
Oh,
crazy. It was
that's
about the
another
money.
book that I have a digital copy and I never read it and said that was the closest
It's,
to.
and my
Yeah,
personal
everyone was writing
opinion,
books, and
yeah,
it's
it,
crazy. And like I said, Carposi was a newspaper guy. Newspaper guys, yeah, I guess they all are. Maury was a newspaper guy. Maury's book is the best. I don't care.
oh
That book
yeah.
had me. I was at the edge of my seat reading that. I love that book, and you know, for what it is, it's a good piece of literature, and a lot of it is fictional. Again, that's my opinion, but very well written, and it's a shame he didn't write other books. It's a shame, and even if he was going to come out with the second book, you can see from the notes he was just going to, he was going to get deeper down that hole. And I really believe, I think he did the forward to that other book, What Did Lisa Know? I think he was going to try to bring this whole Steinberg case in there. And I think that's what happened too with Sisman, right?
Yeah.
With the snuff film, I don't believe the snuff film had anything to do with Moskowitz. From what I know of snuff films, it's someone can I say unalive? You're not monetized, right? You're not monetized. Someone
I
gets killed after a sexual act, and it's up close. It's not going to be from far away in a van. Of you can't even see the people. The whole thing of the snuff is to actual watch the people get, you know,
Right, right.
taken care of.
Well, and we
So
know that whole, the whole Melanie situation. I
the
mean,
Melanie Haller, the sweat
she
hog,
wasn't murdered, but yeah, she
right?
was
Well,
from
she
the
escaped. She
Welcome Back,
escaped.
Kotter.
Right, she escaped. But if there was going to be, I'm sure that was filmed there in that mansion, because you know what the stuff that Maury came up with is true stuff. So that rating was,
Yeah, I
he was
mean,
twisted.
for the fun of it, I think that we really need, not for the fun, but just for the informational purpose. I think that I definitely want to go through those cats, because I put so much work into those slides, and it's, to me, it was so interesting that I really feel like, like I said, it may not all link back to shootings, but there was some shit going on. So people who deny anything's going on at all, it's kind of crazy.
And I tell you what, as far as that whole thing, we had those. I believe that case didn't Mounts reopen that case. I think he was a cold case guy. So then he
Yeah.
sort of looked into it because he hooked up with Maury. But again, those guys, those whole Pine Street irregulars, it was all about hooking up with Maury and getting blasted and drinking,
I,
and talking,
yeah,
doing what we're doing now,
I don't know those guys, but you know what? Listen, more power to everybody. I feel
Yeah,
like,
no, I'm telling you, and a lot of this stuff that gets, see, that's what people don't realize too. So, stories that get told around a bar, are not always the truth. And if cops are telling, oh, you were shot by a woman, they're telling Carl shot by a woman. You got to understand that there's a lot of cops that are bitter, and they hate the job. It's 20 years. They got to live 20 years of their life going to work, and they hate the establishment. But it's a nice way to make a living. And at the end of the day, these cops, they'll go to a bar and they'll get drunk and they'll just bash the department over and over again. And again, you're around the bar, so the tails get taller. So whatever
well,
they're gonna
the
say,
stories
whatever.
definitely get juicier. I could vouch for that, even though I
Right.
don't.
Yeah,
God,
in real life.
I don't party anymore for a long time, but yeah, the stories mix up, and whatever, to each his own. I think what really matters is anybody that really wants truth or just enjoys talking, and that's probably not a good word, but whoever's an enthusiast of the case and likes filling in puzzle pieces, I'll probably say that we could leave off, hey, we're always interested in talking. I never try to make any problems with anybody, really. I don't get I don't have a problem with anybody. The funny thing is that the only two people who have really tried to insult me, and I have a thick skin, so I really don't give a shit, to be honest with you. But there's only two people in this community, and they both have very similar thoughts to me. Probably not as wackadoo as my theories, but I never. I mean, I have no problem with anybody else. Everyone else in this community has been very kind to me, very gracious with me. And for that, I appreciate it. Listen, not everyone could like you and whatever, but this has been fun. This has been fun just to be able to shoot the shit. And that was what was on my thumbnail. I
Right.
really,
Yeah,
I,
that's what sort of interested me. And
yeah,
you would think that the whole lone shooter community, right? That seems to be the most fractured. And
I think it's the most toxic.
yeah, and I think people, everyone has their talent and everyone, can add to it. But by the same token, there's people out there doing work, no matter what they're doing.
Who?
Anyone who goes on and does a show, you got to respect them. And they're doing the work and they're putting stuff up there and they're at least trying to prove points. But from all this stuff, that's released, have you seen any of the other side of the coin? Have they put anything out there that proves anything? It's always very speculative.
I don't
It's
know.
not like
I
black
think
or ink.
late. I think lately we're experiencing a lot of conjecture, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's how people chop it up. You get ideas, and then you go look, and you could see what can be proven and what can, and what's more probable and what's not. That's all part of the process. But we all have to accept that most of us on here, we're not experts. We're just all talking. And if everyone could put their egos at bay and treat people, act like grown-ups and treat people nicely, man, could you imagine the work we'd get done?
I think at this point, everyone has their opinions and no one's going to change it. Like, I don't know, how you're going to try to change. There's certain people that aren't going to change. And,
I'm not trying to change anybody. Like I said,
no, but I'm saying that like, there are people out there trying to, you know, to change people. And again,
no.
it's like, at this point, you do what you do. It's like, you know, you could come up with like, again, the whole Billy the Artist thing. I was involved with that behind the scenes in real time. And I told Manny, I said, you gotta find the comic books, if that's what it is. And sure enough, he found it. He found 2 out of the 3. And we all know that third one now, that doesn't seal the deal because only 2 out of 3 were found. And
Well, yeah, and my opinion on that, I take what I have to do when I'm evaluating information is I take people out of the equation. So, I always want to look at everything from a logical perspective. So I'm not going to say, well, Grossman and I don't love each other, so I'm not going to go with that Billy the Artist thing. I mean, for God's sake, the comic book pictures were presented. So, I think I think everyone just gotta either step back and just learn how to be a little bit more, I mean, for God's sake, most of us are almost seniors. Everyone just got to be a little bit cooler. Everyone's got to share information. And hey, if you're going to put stuff up, why don't you source it? How about that?
well, I think that's something that, it drives me crazy because you'll see things and I'll be like, well, where'd you get that from? And I had an experience too. And I think the experience. Someone showed me an article and he showed me like 2 lines of an article.
Yeah.
And I'm not even going to get into the whole details of it. So I went to this person who's, considered, again, a big newspaper guy or whatever. But that's great. That's great. I want to see. So when you show me 2 things of an article, I'm like, all right, well, where'd you get that from? What periodical did you get it? Do you have a date? And I think you found it. You were able to find it.
I had it in
the whole headline of that article was
it basically gave you the opposite information as to
right.
what was being presented. I know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. The article was like, the headline was this, and then those so listen, you want to take an excerpt, that's fine. Or you want to show like 3 lines of something, or you want to put something up. Where'd you get it? Where'd you find that from? Did you find it, on the internet from an auction site? Did you get it from this newspaper? What's the date and the date? And that's something that I think, we had discussed when you were putting that together, that, we've kind of gone out of our way to show that.
Right.
And just, even if it's an excerpt, because then you can kind of go and find it yourself. Because if you're going to read 3 lines of one article, but the other 30 lines of the article says something totally different, then
that's how people are. That's how people are when with their research. I find that they're grubby with it, and I'm not even gonna mention any names at this point, but
right.
Back in the day when everybody was excited about certain things coming off, it wasn't unusual to get like a 1 sentence of a letter, or like you said, 2 lines of an archive or whatever. And I just don't play that game. It's like, look, this is where I got it. This is what it is. This is what I think. What do you think? Great. You want to take a copy? Great. But then don't pawn it off, whatever. Anyhow.
Hey, wait, hold on. We go, Ginger. Yeah, Gimmelishby looks just like Alfred Hunt Howell. You know what? This is what I was coming to, and dates are very important, Ginger. Yes, 100%. The dates, they play a huge huge role into things. And if you're following along with different comments and the different things, there's dates of certain items that are shown when it's brought up, and then it's just like, but Alfred Hunt Howell now, he was Mr. Real Estate. What I always knew was Alfred Hunt Howell was Mr. Real Estate. So all of a sudden, whatever that story is, and I did a lot of work on that case, and it was interesting. And I think we had come up with some good stuff, and it sort of like just stopped. And I think there was a lot more to be told with that. But anyway,
Are those videos still available?
Yeah, well, sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I think they're up there now.
That's on Manny's site, correct?
Yes. And
So
we
Ginger's probably seen
I had
them.
a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing that case with them. It was great. But now Alfred Hunt Howell, I always thought was Mr. Real Estate. Then all of a sudden you got Donovan. So it's like, I never really knew a Donovan. And I guess that's who Billy the Artist's wake he went to, was Donovan. I don't even know at this point. But then all of a sudden, and this is important because I was trying to get that across in that post that kind of got shanghaied on yours. So
hey, by the way, that's all back up. They put it back up. I protested and they put it back up.
Okay. I don't know why it got taken down, but there was nothing bad in there. But now all of a sudden, Gajusek seems to be the new Mr. Real Estate,
Yeah,
right?
Gajusek is back.
Who the hell is Gajusek? So Gajusek was the real deal. I mean, we know about him, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Nobel Prize, whatever, he did time for his crimes.
Yeah, don't say the P word, because I think that's why they took it off.
Right.
And did I tell you they took off, they didn't like my sexy thumbnail. I got booted for that too. I got a warning.
Yeah. Well,
so it's
anyway,
like whatever.
Gajusek now is Mr. Real Estate. And now we're told that Berkowitz is talking about Gajusek's house. And I think in my comment, I says, well, he's fed a lot of information, and that's fine. You could be fed all kinds of information.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking, with Gajusek, how did this come into it? Where did I first hear of Gajusek? So I started racking my brains. So then, lo and behold, Manny sort of brought him up first. And okay, it was an interesting angle at the time. But then when you see these reports, Maury's files, he had Gajusek.
He had Gajusek,
right.
Yep.
Now again, there was a Yonkers connection there, and everything like that. So then I'm starting to think, wow, Gajusek. And then I'm thinking about all these other characters that sort of came out of nowhere in 2021 and 2022. And then it sort of dawned on me. I'm like, how are they finding all this information? Well, they already had the files.
They had the files.
Looking into this. They were looking into this.
Sure.
And you know what? Both Manny and Neil, they did a great job when they were working together, debunking all that stuff. With
I wish those two chicks would get back together.
I mean, it was
their breakup.
The Neto stuff was great. The Neto stuff was great.
The Neto stuff was one of my favorites. I think the Neto stuff.
It was whatever it is, And again, I don't even want to get in. I know so much. I know a lot behind the scenes. I don't even want to get it. I don't even want to get into it because I don't have a problem with either one. It's just that it's a shame it didn't work out. And again, it's on the record. I did nothing. And that's 100% true statement. I talked to people. We talked, we had fun. We shared some information. We came up with theories, and that's all it was. And 100% true. And, always tried to give credit where credit was due, because I knew a lot of the stuff that was going on, behind the scenes.
I'll be honest with you. I really don't even want to get into a conversation with them.
Yeah,
because,
I know.
I think I stated my piece already, and I pretty much feel what I said. One, the first thing and foremost is that I don't give a shit. And then secondly, my only job is to, stick up for myself, but I'm not going to waste any energy on it. So I don't
Right.
even want to get into it. But
But
listen, I
again, no,
think
I just see, I like Ginger's comments. I really, really do, because
I
she comes
told
up with
you,
some good
I
stuff.
love Ginger. She comes, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter if we're on opposite ends of the spectrum on something. She'll come up with a little receipt of something or somewhere. And just the other day I was sharing something with her because she's got an issue with that they can't find the porn in Berkowitz's apartment. So Zigo, I got him on the record when the movie came out saying that Berkowitz's apartment was completely bare with just a shotgun and a newspaper headline. So listen, you can't.
Ginger, you know where the porn went, Ginger? The road cops took it.
Probably. You're
I'll
probably
tell
right.
you 100%. I'll tell you 100%. Tell you 100%. That's where it went.
Yeah. But anyhow, it's getting a little late on this end, and it's time for me to put my PJs on. This has been super fun. And
Yeah, it was a lot of
wow,
fun.
dude, this stream is like 3 hours. I'm glad that you jumped on, and I want to maybe do the follow the money. I had someone else too who was interested, but they never made it to the chat. So maybe next time we can have a nice group chat. And like I said, I think everybody in their own way has stated their piece, and I think it should be left there. And
No, and like
we
I said, no,
enjoy the work. Let's do the work.
I'm starting to see engagement on the other end too, and I think it's good. I think it's good, and like I said, I try to watch everything that I can.
Yeah,
Some
well,
days I'm late on things, but I try to watch as much as I can and try to absorb as much as I can.
and I feel like at this point with the case, unless I fall into a hole of my own, I don't really feel like I'm learning much about it, to be honest with you. Oh, look at Ginger. Great show, because we love her. I figured you did, Ginger. I figured you already had that, but anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
rogue cops. You want to rogue, 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 rogue. When in doubt, it's always the rogue cops. So
I think so. Anyway.
whatever it is, that's fun. It's always great to see the rogue cop angle, as I like to see. When in doubt, it's a rogue cop.
Well, I think that it's like anything else. You know how that goes. Oh yeah, look at Tom. Oh, my nutty. Thanks, book club, for calling in and getting it working. Thanks, Rosie. Great show as usual. Good night, chatters. Tap that like on the way out. Yeah, guys, I don't ask for anything. It helps with the algas. If you enjoyed it tonight, just give the video a like. That's all.
Oh,
All
Patrick,
right,
Epstein
guys.
was one of the 22. Just so you know, take that and run with it.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Patrick, wait till you hear the rest on the Abrahamson. We're gonna have fun on that conversation. He loves talking Tabby Doc, man. He loves talking Tabby Doc. All right, guys. Well, yeah, Book, thank you so much for calling in. This was fun. This was great. Chatters, Ginger, whoever's still, I don't know. I think we lost most of the people because it's like 12:30, but there's still people in there chatting. So chat away. Thank you so much for jumping on. And I think that we're gonna end this one here, and hopefully we'll have who knows, maybe Saturday Night Live is the kicker. And hey, tomorrow's Super Bowl, so I guess some of you are prepping for that. Yeah. All right, Book, you there? All right, well, I think we're gonna sign off here. Thank you, guys. Book, I think I lost your sound, so thank you.